Hey, YouTuber verse. What's happening? It is
What's
Metal
going on,
Miners
guys?
66. Jeff here. I'm joined by one Necrotic Nick from Thralls of Metal. I think some of you cats out there will definitely know that guy. And Nick, I want to thank you for joining me for this deep dive. You've been on a couple others, obviously, but this one we've been kind of kicking around for about 2 months or so, anyways. And I do want to say one thing before we jump too deep into that. One of my very first videos was kind of my own deep dive on Killing Joke. About 45 minutes, something like that. And I messed a lot up in that because I was trying to read off of a laptop while I was cutting on my video on my phone, and I wasn't able to even find all my CDs, which I do have now, thankfully. But I kind of goofed some stuff up, and when we get to the album that I really butchered, I'll talk about that. But so this is kind of a companion piece to that. But Mick and I are both big time fans of this particular band, and the band we're talking about is Killing Joke, because that's why I hope some of you are here watching, and hopefully some of you may or may not know about them. But if you don't know about them, you're going to learn a lot about them tonight, and you're going to learn our opinions about this very hard to define discography of music. Yeah. This is not a band that you can just say, oh, it's death doom, oh, it's melodic death metal, oh, it's classic rock, it's industrial, it's proto prog, it's proto metal. They have so many different elements to their sound that I have a hard time when anybody says, hey, what's Killing Joke sound like? I have a hard time going, well,
what album did you catch them on?
Which album and what period? And I tend to look at their material that they put out now over 43 years, by the way. Now we're talking 43 years. I tend to categorize their material in finite kind of eras. They all kind of overlap to one degree or another, but they do have some definable sort of sounds for certain specific groups of albums. Sometimes it's only 2 albums, sometimes it's 4, sometimes it's 6 or 7. I think they've been in a groove the last 5 or 6 albums that are fairly, or at least the last 4 or 5 that are fairly consistent in sound.
Yeah.
Before we get into that, I want to thank Rick from Dreadful Minutes, as always, for a last-minute killer thumbnail that he put together for me. I'm going to try to transition over and start doing some of mine soon, but Rick has a couple more in the works for me that we've been discussing for bands that I've got upcoming. I'm going to start a little series, hopefully this week, maybe even tomorrow, actually, that instead of deep dives, we're going to go shallow dives. I know it's really inventive. It's difficult to wrap your mind around that, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to do some bands that I kind of dig that generally only have 1 or 2 or 3 albums, usually not more than 3 or 4. And the discography is such that I can sit and dig into it on my own, give you my own sort of rundown of everything. And those are going to be called shallow dives. So I've got one of those coming up, I hope, on Fifth Angel. Killer band that you should know. If you don't, do you know that band?
Fifth Angel? I think I know a
Fifth Angel.
No, I don't know where that
Fifth
finger's
Angel.
been.
Dude, you don't know Fifth Angel, you got to fucking get on those first 2 albums. Do you remember when Howard Stern had the E! Network show before he became like mega gigantic and went to Sirius and all that stuff? He had it was called the E! Network. Well, the lead-off the soundtrack for that, or the intro music for that, was a band called Fifth Angel. But I knew about them way before that. They have an album called Fifth Angel that is fucking killer proto U.S. traditional. I call it U.S. traditional and power metal, but it's not power metal. It's just really good fucking traditional metal, man. Like, it's kind of like Fates if Fates was a little less proggy. It's like Fates Warning in a lot of ways. Really cool shit, man. So I'm going to do one on them. Going to do one on a band called Stone Fury that only has 2 albums, which is where Lenny Wolf got his start before he had Kingdom Come. And so that's coming up. But again, Rick, thank you for helping out. We're going to jump into Killing Joke. So, Nick, where did you come into Killing Joke? What at what point or what album or what did you learn about them?
I was actually thinking. I've been thinking about this since we talked about doing this deep dive, and honestly, I think the first time I ever heard about them was in Metal Maniacs. Surprisingly, amongst all the other stuff in there that they were doing articles like Carcass, Broken Hope, Brutal Truth,
right.
All the brutal shit. There was an article and even a picture of this band called Killing Joke, and I looked at them and was like, these guys don't necessarily look that metal. And then reading the article, I was like, man, they don't even really sound that metal. And this was probably around like 96, 97. And kind of forgot about it for a little while. Then I was in a used CD store and I picked up a copy of Pandemonium. When I saw it, I was like, Killing Joke. That was that band I heard of. And I jammed it. I was like, whoa, there's a lot going on here. I guess it's industrial metal. I mean, it's heavy, but it's not like metal heavy, but it is heavy in its own way. And jammed that, kind of, forgot about them for a little while. And then the 2003 album came back, when they came back from like kind of a bit of a hiatus there. And yeah, I picked that up. I was like, holy shit, man, I need to get more of their stuff. And then I just dove right into their discography. I was like, dude, this is such a unique band. I don't know. It's one of those like bands, I would say, that influences metal, but they're not necessarily metal, because I know Metallica's covered them. Tons of people have covered them. And yeah, I was hooked. It was just a unique sound, and it echoed a lot of stuff that I listened to in both metal and not metal.
Do you remember what year that was?
I think it was around 96, so it was right around the time that Democracy was coming out, but it was Pandemonium that got me started.
Okay. And which is interesting because, I've got you by a couple years, about 14 or 15. And the interesting thing is that I didn't come into them until around Pandemonium too. And I had heard the name before. I'd heard it probably in reading and certainly in Kerrang. I'm sure I was a devoted Kerrang reader back in the mid to late 80s into the early 90s. I mean, I would always pick up. There was a local record store here that imported that magazine, and I was religiously. I can't remember whether that was a bi-weekly or monthly. It may have even or weekly, but I don't know. It was a lot. They used to. I think it was bi-weekly initially, and I used to grab it every time I was down there, which was at least once a week. You know what I mean? And I'm sure I read about them because I certainly knew that name a long, long time before I came to discover them. Okay, because I always thought it was a fucking cool as shit name. It's like there are bands that you're like, man, that name is just rad. You know what I mean? That's one of those bands. But like
there was a Batman novel too.
Yeah, there was. You're right. Was that before?
God, I want to say that was mid 80s.
Okay, so then it would maybe predate them. According to Jazz, a Killing Joke is a joke that you're aiming back at yourself, like you're laughing at yourself for something that's, like you're watching Monty Python and you realize, oh shit, that's me. That's me. So, but it's like the devil's eye staring back at you or something. But for me, the way that I found out about them or heard them first was I went into a place called XYZ, which was a cool local CD only store back then, and it was one of those cool CD stores that back in the 90s that they had the deal where you could go in and they had little Sony Walkman CD players, and you could ask them for this. You took the jewel case up and you're like, yeah man, I want to check this out, and he got he fished the actual CD out of a drawer that he kept back behind the gated wall, so to speak, and he gave it to you and you put it in and you were like, you cracked up. Well, this one day I'm in there, and I was in there all the fucking time, trading and buying and stuff. And Paul, an English dude that owned it, probably a little bit older than me, maybe 7-8 years older than me. He's playing fucking what was playing? Communion, I think it was, or he's playing Millennium or Pandemonium, and it might have been Millennium was probably the song. And I'm listening to this, going, "Whoa, what the fuck is this?" Like, this is fucking killer, man. And I'm like, hey, Paul, who is this? He's like, mate, you mean to tell me, mate, you don't know a Killing Joke? What? And I'm like, I've heard of that band. This is Killing Joke? Like, I always associated Killing Joke, and I know, now that I'm thinking about it, it's really hitting me. I always associated Killing Joke as being a punk band or near punk. And now it's post-punk, but it was my understanding of them from reading or listening to other people talk about them or hearing about them was they were a punk band or a post-punk band. And at that point in time in my life, I listened to no punk. I just didn't. I was not a punk guy. I still not much of a punk guy. I mean, there's a couple bands, Cro-Mags, Bad Brains, Minor Threat. There's some that I can appreciate. I do like the Bad Brains quite a bit. I do like the Cro-Mags album. But I'm just like, for me, punk never grabbed me like it did a lot of people a few years younger than me or even some of my contemporaries. So for me, that was my cue to stay away. I'm not going to like that. You know, I had that already in my head that I'm not going to dig this. It's punk, so I'm not going to like it. Or it's kind of punkish, so I'm not going to dig it. So he's playing Pandemonium, and I'm going, dude, let me check that out, you know? And I put it in the little CD player. Next thing I know, I'm 5 or 6 songs deep. I'm like, fuck yeah. Fuck yeah, this is going with me. Do they have any other albums? He's like, do they have any other albums? He's like, well, yeah, just a few. And so that was where my journey started. The interesting thing is that I remember very definitively the next album, which was Democracy. And guys, I'll get the comments in a minute, which was Democracy in 96, I believe.
Yep.
I remember my buddy picking up a copy from like BMG, the magazine thing, you know, where you get to buy 10 CDs for whatever.
Oh, yeah.
And I remember him getting the CD Club or whatever it was called, Columbia House Club or whatever. And I remember grabbing a copy of it and throwing it in and me going, it's all right. It's not bad. You know, and we'll get to that in a minute when we start doing the albums. But I pretty sure I grabbed Democracy. In fact, I know I did because I had to rebuy it because I got rid of it somewhere along the line. And then, to be blunt with you, I kind of forgot about it, which is kind of crazy. I just kind of forgot about them going forward after 96. Now, there was only the next album didn't come until 2003.
Yep.
And then 2006, and then it was 2010. So I really only missed 2 albums in between there because there was a lot of inactivity with the band to a degree as far as recording.
Yeah.
But when I somehow, and I can't peg it. I tried to remember. But somehow, somewhere around 2010-ish, summer 2010, maybe early 2011, I hear Absolute Dissent. And I'm like, whoa, where have I been? I get that album and I'm like, holy fucking shit. So I go out and buy everything. So I'm not going to sit here and pretend I'm a Killing Joke guy from the very beginning of the 80s or that I was into them early in the 80s and then dropped them for a while and came back. No, I didn't. I got into them in 94, 95, 96 and then forgot about them for literally, 4 or 5? Well, no. How long is that? Till 2010. So 14 years. 13 or 14 years.
Yeah. I never really forgot about them because I listened to like a lot of industrial metal at that time, and they always seem to be in the conversation. Like,
right.
I talk to someone about industrial music, they bring up Killing Joke. It's like, I mean, they're not really industrial, but man, like if you listen to them, you hear a lot of what they do in industrial metal. And I was picking like KMFDM and fucking Ministry and all that shit. So,
well, and I tell you, I mean, you just brought up a good point. They're not really industrial. They're not really metal. They're not really punk. They're not really synth pop. They're not really hard rock. They're not really anything. They're just Killing Joke.
Yeah.
And that's the weird thing about this band that makes them so difficult to describe to people when they go, hey, what's Killing Joke sound like? It's like, depends on where you start and depends on how much you're into them. You'll figure it out. And that's really what I tell people. Although I do often say, if I'm going to start somewhere, I'd start with Absolute Dissent or Pandemonium's not exactly where I think I would start. I think I'd start with Democracy over that, quite frankly. And then you got to talk about the earlier periods. So we'll kind of get there. But yeah, so Killing Joke, hard to define because Killing
Very.
Joke kind of has their own sound and have kind of always had their own sound. Yeah, in the early stuff, I hear some post-punk. I hear some punk, or what I would call as punk in the post-punk era. I hear, stuff. I hear a little. I don't hear a lot of goth, but I hear some goth, some Bauhausian sort of like things with regards to the guitars. Love and Rockets guitars. I hear that in there, dude. I hear fucking Voivod in early Killing Joke. Absolutely. There's no way you can't tell me Piggy wasn't listening to some early Geordie. There's no way.
I'm sure he was.
There's no way. And I'll bring that up when we get further in. Let's talk a little bit about history quick. Killing Joke started in 1970. I see 78 and 79. But what I'm gathering is that was really here we go. Late 78 is when when Jazz meets Big Paul Ferguson. And the story there is that Jazz moves from his Cheltenham, I think is where he lived with his parents, to London, and he basically is going to get on the unemployment line, the dole line, because he doesn't really want to work, and he's going to go get government assistance, and he meets an Indian guy with long hair named Carlos, and Carlos starts telling him, they're talking their stories, and Jazz says, "Mate, I'm here to form a band. I'm going to form the best band ever." And this guy Carlos says, "Yes, I know. I'm going to introduce you to your drummer." And it turns out he takes Jazz back to his flat where Big Paul Ferguson is living, and these two connect, and it's kind of instantaneous, the connection. Brought on by magic, by the way. They both are practicers of magic. I read a lot about Jazz, and I listen to Jazz talk a lot. Man, he is brilliant as fuck. The guy is brilliant. But he's out there, man.
He's an odd bird.
He's a trip. He's a trip. So I don't know how much the magic stuff is true, although Big Paul seems to confirm it in the Death and Resurrection show, which, by the way, if you haven't seen it, you should. It's on YouTube. It's the biography documentary on, I think it came out in 2012 or 2013, and I believe Jazz financed it. But anyways, these guys meet. They kind of automatically click. Paul is in a band called Matt Stagger, and Jazz, he brings Jazz in as a keyboardist, as a synthesizer player, and pretty much right away they determine they're going to go a different route, and they actually leave the band unbeknownst to each other. Apparently they actually called out of a gig and didn't show up for a gig, and the band were left without two guys that didn't show up, this Matt Stagger band. They put an ad out. They do a magic thing, and you got to watch the video to get the context of it. I'm not going to go through it, but they literally draw a pentagram on the ground, and they orientate points, but it's magic. It's ritualistic magic, not fucking satanic magic. It's magic with a K, which I don't know. I don't practice Satanism, so maybe that is ritualistic magic. I don't know, but it's a cult. It's a
Doctor
cult.
Strange with training wheels.
Right. So they do this ritualistic thing, and they put an ad in Melody Maker or something, and Geordie appears to them in March of '79, and then a little bit later, Youth is brought in, and Youth, by the way, was the only guy in the band that really had any real musical experience, had jammed with bands, had actually gone on tours and things like that, and he was just looking for a place to crash and eat. He really didn't want to fucking spend he wasn't even sure he was going to stay with this band, and that's a theme because his tenure there is in and out a lot of the time. But they played their first gig in June of '79, and again, at that point, they, through Jazz's girlfriend at the time, she helped to self-finance a single or an EP that was called "Turn to Red." It has 4 tracks on it there: "Nervous System," "Turn to Red," "Are You Receiving," which was the very first song they ever wrote together, and then another dub version. I think it's called what the hell is it called here? So I told you I wouldn't be able to read my fucking. One's turned to red, and then the others. Is it all red?
Oh,
Can't read my fucking writing here. Can you pull that up? I
I'm
don't want to
pulling
look
up
like a total.
right now. Hold on here. Point
Yeah,
of view.
look up turn to red EP because I've seen other different names and.
Would this all right? Would this be under Killing Joke's discography?
Yeah, it's the very first EP. It came out in '79.
Oh yeah, Turn to Red.
Right, and what's it got? Nervous System, Turn to Red. Are You Receiving? And then there's one other dub mix of Turn to Red called
Almost
something else.
Red.
Almost Red. I said all red. Almost Red. I can't read my fucking writing. That came out and it came out in various formats. Initially, it came out as a 7-inch with 3 tracks on it. Then it came out as a 12-inch because that was all the rage back in the 80s. You had to do 12 inches. You had to do dance remixes and all that kind of shit. But they self-financed this thing, and they put it out in October 79. And at that point, John Peel became aware of it. Now, the story goes that Jazz somehow got a copy to John Peel, or somebody did, but I think Jazz did, or Paul, one of the two. And they kind of, forced this upon John Peel. And John Peel was a big deal back then. Yep. John Peel was a radio host, and he was a promoter for gigs. And, this guy was a big kind of fucking dude. And he started playing, I believe, Are You Receiving? And they very quickly started gigging. By their 18th gig, they were actually headlining like Hammersmith and Lyceum and pretty big venues for a band that really came out of nowhere in a lot of ways. The other thing is that Johnny Rotten knew about them, and Johnny Rotten name-checked them, and that helped give them a lot of gravitas. And I think John Peel probably was like, well, if Johnny says this is good, I better check it out. He started playing the thing. He's like, this is a band that's going to go somewhere. There's no doubt. So, again, originally a 7-inch. Again, it's got – you look at Wikipedia, and there's a lot of barrage of information about all the different iterations of that thing. I do not own it. I have versions of the songs on a collection, but I do not own the actual EP.
Yeah, same here.
Did you listen to that one by chance?
No, I went for the full lengths mostly.
Okay.
I still gotta check that one out. I want to say some of the reissues actually have tracks by it.
They may. The one I'm thinking of is this one right here.
I don't have that one.
This is this one I found out is going for $50-$60 because it is the 3 CD version, which is pretty rare, but even more rare. It was basically a 2 CD version, came out in 2013, right after 2012 came out. It was kind of like a collection. There's all kind of shit on here that's like CD3 has all the rarities, which we'll go over at the end of this thing. But there was a box set that was manufactured to order of this, and this thing is fucking insane, dude. The box set of this we'll talk about at the end because I do not own it. I would love to own it, but it goes for about $900 to $1,000, and I doubt I'm ever going to own it. Because it was you basically had to buy it. You had to pre-buy it, and they didn't give you any idea when it was going to be manufactured. But you literally got 32 single CDs in the box set with a book, and each CD had 2 or 4 tracks on. I can't remember, at least 1 or 2. And then you got like actually ashes and wrappings of smoked cigars from Jazz and Paul Raven. And it's just fucking that box set I would fucking cut a nut off to own. I'll be honest with you. But I know I'm not going to get there. So we'll talk about this when we get there. But this does have Nervous System, Turn to Red on it. So it's got some of those tracks. I did listen to it. And quite frankly, it's good. It's actually quite good. Are You Receiving is kind of a post-punky, jaunty sort of track that you would hear in the early 80s. It's nothing super special, but it's very solid. Okay, you have it on there. So what else is on there? Turn to Red on there? That's got to be on there, I would think.
This one has the first disc is the Bums Rush, and that has, let's see, Change. Are you receiving is on here. Complications. I mean, a lot of the stuff was demos of stuff that would be on the debut, but it does
Right.
have the rarities and a lot of live stuff. Like
Yeah, I gotta get. Is that the 3 CD one too?
Yep, big old
Yeah.
like
Okay.
fat fucking CD.
I never picked that up because I grabbed this, but I probably need that because I think there's some shit on there that's not on here. And I have pretty much everything else except for the one album which we talked about, which we'll get to. But yeah, so there's great songs like "Turn to Red" is really cool. The dub version is actually not bad. It's like all dub versions. It's blah 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 cha 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 wah wah. You know, that kind of shit like that. All the dub, you know, reverb and all the fucking, you know, the shit that was going on at that time.
Yeah.
You know, it was just very much a thing that was going on. Now, I should be mentioned that based on the strength of the quality of these songs, they ended up being signed by EG Records and distributed by Polydor. EG was a management firm and a record label, and probably the most famous band on EG at that point in time would have been One King Crimson. They also managed bands like Roxy Music, Emerson, Lake and Palmer. Roxy also had some albums that came out on EG. So there's a lot of, you know, there's a lot of interesting bands on what their roster was at one point in time. They've been bought out by I can't remember who bought them out. 92, I think they were bought out. Not 92, 2002 maybe. Virgin? Was it Virgin that bought them out?
Check that.
Can't remember. I can't remember. If you look up EG Records, I know that
Universal Music Group.
Oh, UMG. Okay, so what ended up happening was, I think what killed them was one of the owners. The two E and G stand for the last names of their last names, and they were doing mostly moving into management, trying to get out of the record business. But Robert Fripp sued them they withheld royalty payments from a lot of artists. They did something real snaky and low life, and Robert Fripp went after them, and that pretty much shut them down. They had to sell out. So a very unique label to have a band like Killing Joke, because again, as we established very early on, not a band that you can pigeonhole as a prog band or as a hard rock band or as a shoegaze band. They just didn't have that metal. They were kind of an amalgam of a whole lot of things. And let's see, where are we at here? Yeah, so Are You Receiving? Good song. Turn to Red, good song. There's the Nervous System song is a little grating. It's a little bit of that post-punky stuff that I'm not usually a big fan of. But it's kind of interesting because it sounds like a Nervous System song. Like it's like really energetic and kind of boppy and, you know, that kind of stuff. So, and I hear a lot of the Clash in it. I hear some Susie and the Banshees. I even hear a little bit of early U2 in the guitar.
Yeah.
Chiming of the guitars and stuff like that in that first EP there. One of the things though that was established very quickly on, even with this EP, is that super, super heavy political overtones to all of the lyrics that Jazz writes. He's a very well-informed guy. I'm not going to say he knows it all and he's just a savant, but he's very well-informed and he's very well-researched on things that he wants to write about and talk about. And the guy ain't no dummy. It's just, he's not. He's a trip and he's out there, but he is a very intellectual guy. Let's see what else we got here. I should notice one other little historical thing, then we'll get into the albums. They started their own record label called Malicious Damage, and that was so that they could self-release, and that's how they originally put that first EP out, was on Malicious Damage. Then it was picked up. I don't know if it was ever reissued by EG. I don't think it was. I think they basically went on and had them head into the studio. But what you hear is, you know, you can hear a little bit of Pistols in there. Like I said, a little bit of Love and Rockets, a little bit of Bauhaus, mainly in the guitars. And Jazz's crazed delivery starts to develop from this point on. And it's wholly unique, I think. Wholly unique.
It's kind of like the music. It depends on when you get him. Sometimes he's tuneful and crooning. Other times, sounds like a fucking man possessed.
Yeah, let's hit a couple quick comments, and then we'll jump into the meat of this thing.
We'll tell you
Did you
what.
have anything you wanted to add on any of the history there?
Actually, I think you pretty much got it right there. I need my fucking blow my nose, and I'm gonna grab a quick smoke now. That way, I'm in for the longer haul. But go for the comments.
All right.
I'll be right back.
I'll hit some comments real quick. Yep. All right, guys. I'll hit some comments, and then we're gonna get into the albums. And if it's kind of hard for me to do comments right now because I'm having issues with my right eye. It's all fucked up from getting something in it, so it's hard for me to see. So I hit a couple of these here. Great Cloud, just listen to Pandemonium. Good place to start if you've never, if you haven't heard them before. If not, you know what you're getting into there. Oh man, fucking Democracy. I listened to that album today for the first time in years. Forgot how good it is. Really good fucking album. Yeah, man, they do have a core sound, and as we were trying to say, Mariano, it's almost impossible to fully describe what their sound really is. It's really difficult. Bassman, what's up, dude? Fifth Angel. Okay, Rick with his puns. What's up, Bass? Beetlejuice, High Pitch Erica, Porn Star. Oh, yeah, you're talking about going back to Pandemonium just come out. Nirvana, yeah. I don't get Nirvana. I just don't get them. Chaz, makeup in all black. Yeah, man. Yeah, when he was doing the Aleister Crowley thing. He's had a couple different phases of his, what I would call his maturation of his look. Okay, what else we got here? It's Joker. What's this say? Okay. Yes, it is very good, Rick. Absolutely, man. Killing Joke is my business. I was that a little Dirty Harry pun there? I don't know if it was real info, but about Alan Moore being a fan of the band that influenced the title. I don't know about that actually. Okay, what else we got here? First experience with KJ was Wait, 5th grade. Oh, the Metallica cover of it. Yeah. Part of the same series. Joy Division. I didn't bring up Joy Division, and I should have. That's one that escaped me there a little bit. Joy Division was definitely they don't sound like Killing Joke, and Killing Joke doesn't sound like Joy Division, but there's definitely a nexus there. You can definitely hear where they sprang from, the punk, the GBH, the Pistols and stuff. And Pistols were just basically a rock band. Let's be honest. I mean, a lot of those bands were just hard rock bands that sped things up, and the lyrical content was a little bit more intense, and the whole trappings of the scene made a lot of that music what it really was. And so I agree with that. Ozzy, okay, what do we got here? Hey, dude, what's up? Oh, you can stay, buddy. You can stay, absolutely. Democracy's not a bad start. A really, really good album. We'll get there when we talk about him. Nick's not as into it, but that's okay.
Yeah.
It's more modern, KJ. I'd agree with that. Killing Joke was Metallica. Yeah, I think a lot of people came into Metallica. I came to them before that, and I knew of them before that, but I know that a lot of younger people will probably be like, oh man, the Wait, that, because they covered that on there, I believe, on Garage Days, right?
Yep.
And let's see, Generation X could have took us. Yeah, Generation X. That's a good one, Rick. I didn't even think of that one. That's a good band that's in and around that period too, where you got to remember, like around this period, a lot of stuff that was coming out was Duran Duran and Japan and the new romantic sound and Spandau Ballet, and these guys were like the antithesis of all that. So good point. Yeah, The Cure. I'm going to do a deep dive on The Cure, absolutely, because it's one of my favorite bands. I don't necessarily hear a lot of Killing Joke in The Cure. The early Cure, maybe a little bit. There's some similarities to early Killing Joke, but I don't. They diverged on different paths. The Cure got a lot more gothy, and whereas I don't think Killing Joke, they have a few gothy moments that we're going to talk about, but they never full on jumped into goth and became a goth band. They just never did become Susie and the Banshees or The Cure. They just didn't. Or a shoegaze My Bloody Valentine. There was always way more energy, way more anger, way more angst, way more fuck yous going on with Killing Joke than anything else.
Punk ethos.
Love Like Blood. Yeah, we're going to talk about that. Glad they
Love it.
didn't. Yep. What else here? I'm sorry, man. I'm trying to catch up. Cager, the Celtic Frost of post-punk. You couldn't nail a single genre. I guess. Yeah, that's probably
actually
not a bad. It's not a bad analogy there. Okay. Well, all right. Here's the deal. I can't get all caught up because this fucking thing's killing me, man. All right. Yep. We're gonna talk about that.
Oh yeah.
Very, very cutting the edge. Does he ever stop? Can he stop?
No, he doesn't.
I don't think he can stop. I think it's like a mental illness with Rick. He just cannot not pun.
He's punishing us.
He's punishing.
God.
All right. Hey, what's up? What's up? Let's Talk Metal. Thanks for dropping by,
What's up, Alan?
So we're gonna jump into these albums because I want to let Nick talk a little bit more because it's been mostly me. Let's talk about the first album. You want to show your copy? We'll alternate. All right. And only things to say about this while you're showing there is self-produced, came out on EG Records 10/5/1980. September 5th, 1980. I was in 9th grade. What grade were you in, Nick?
I was 1.5, maybe 2. But I was already starting in on this. Like I said, I've been a fan for like a long time. 2 years old.
So you were listening 1-year-old, 2-year-old while you're sucking on your nunny.
I had a mohawk. I had a nose ring. Dude, I was the shit.
Fuck yeah, man. All right. What do you have to say about this album?
This is a great debut. One of my issues with a lot of post-punk, and I would call this a post-punk album. Like, if you're going to call it one thing, that would probably be it. Was post-punk, I don't know, it just seemed like it stripped away a lot of the anger. Like, I think, like, bands like Joy Division, that's kind of like the post-punk thing. Very sad, very emotional. This is emotional, but on a very angry level. Like, this has some hostility to it and bite, and that gritty production they have on here is fucking perfect. And the fact that Jazz's, keyboard work is more like just looping strange sounds and then melodies. Like, it has that machine-like sound, again, like influential to industrial.
Yeah, but it's not Rick Wakeman and Yes keyboard work.
Hold on here. I'll look at my notes here. Of course, Metallica covered The Weight. I mean, honestly, that was probably the first time I ever heard anything Killing Joke, but I didn't know it was Killing Joke. I really like Bloodsport. Bloodsport on here, there's something funky about it. And funky bass lines kind of pop up throughout this discography very often. And I really fucking just, I don't know, man. It just kind of resonated with me. And then, of course, I thought about Bloodsport, the movie. I was like, wow, I wonder if fucking Jean-Claude could do the splits to this song, because he probably could. But yeah, this is a killer debut. And again, kind of unlike anything that really came out in terms of, again, if you're going to lump this in post-punk, it's a very different post-punk album. It's, again, more aggressive and just kind of dirty sounding, but they're great melodies. Like, The Weight is stupid catchy. Requiem, the opening track,
Requiem's
amazing.
Killer track.
Primitive, fucking love that song. This album's a great start.
Yeah, and I think maybe angst is anger and angst are the two words that describe this, because, as you said, a lot of those post-punk bands that came out, like Joy Division, like Susie, like some of those bands that were, and I'm not gonna pull them all up because it's not my favorite era of music. I like a lot of them, but I don't. It's not my go-to. A lot of it's very maudlin. It's very depressing. It's very in itself. You know what I mean? It's caught up in itself a lot. And the while some of the guitar tones are similar, the chiminess and that 80s drum sound, that big reverby giant hall, that stuff, the cans, you can hear that stuff, and you hear a lot of chorus, and you hear a lot of delay on the guitars and things like that, and the guitars sound stabbing and almost grating at times. The guitars don't sound like fetid riffs or fucking, that's or they don't sound fucking super technical like fucking Dream Theater or super doomy like, Sabbath or something. They have a very unique sound. The guitars do it this year and the drums do as well. Vocals as well too. Vocals are always extremely very expansive and room verbs. You get these giant cathedral like room verbs in these music. But this, you're right, you pegged it on this album. There's a lot of anger, there's a lot of angst, and there's a lot of fuck you to the world around them.
Yep.
So they still have that punk ethos in a lot of their lyrics and a lot of their worldviews. But in a weird way, I don't want to say that punk rockers weren't smart and intellectual, because a lot of them very much were. But Jazz, when you read his lyrics, man, he is kind of on another level when he's drilling down into something, man. It's fucking deep, it's bone deep, and he's right there with his convictions. He's not just throwing a bunch of platitudes out there. Go, oh, look at globalization. Oh, look at the 1%. He fucking hates those people for real, and he should. We all should.
Yeah,
we really all should, because they're fucking evil. The world. I'm not going to get all conspiracy theory linked here, but the 2%, the 10% globally, and these corporations, especially global corporations, they fucking run our lives, and they always will. Sadly, they probably always will. You're seeing some interesting things over in Ukraine right now, where a gigantic, overlord is trying to crush out an entire people's country, and they're saying fuck you. And this is what Jazz does in his music. He's full of fuck yous to everybody.
Yeah.
Which is strange, because if you ever meet him like I have, he's a fucking fun guy. But he's intense. Everything about Jazz is fucking intense, as are the lyrics on this. This album is this artwork, by the way, is I believe it's artwork from V2 Gassings. No, what's that?
I was gonna say it looks like a Banksy.
Well, it's actually from Riots, and I thought I read it was from the V2 Riots, or not V2 Gassing, Rocket Gassings. I could be wrong. Maybe it's somebody's gonna fact check me there. I know that's one of the things I didn't write down. Let me hit a couple notes on this quick. A guitar and drum and bass album than their EP was. The EP had a lot more keyboards on it, and as you noted, the keyboards on this album are a lot more about atmosphere. And there's some driving ones, like in Requiem, that bam 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 bam. It's like a pulsing machine-like sound, like you said, which is very accurate. Really well put there. And it's more cataclysmic sounding and angrier. For me, Requiem, War Dance, The Wait, the three biggies off that album, and they're the three that they actually play a lot live. Still, if you get to see them, you're guaranteed you're going to see Requiem and probably The Wait. Yeah. And oftentimes War Dance is in there too.
War Dance.
I think every time I've seen them, they've played at least two out of the three. The songs are very solid. The long instrumental track, which I believe is called .036, is that the long instrumental, right?
S036, I think that's what it says on mine. I think
S. Well, it looks like a dollar
maybe it's
sign.
A dollar sign.
Looks like a dollar sign,
comma,
or a pound
036.
sign. Yeah, that's the long instrumental, and it's kind of that one's not the greatest tune on there, because I just don't think, but it's kind of setting the plate for what would come in the future with their song lengths. Because one thing that Killing Joke likes to do is write long songs sometimes. Sometimes it's to their detriment. We'll get to that when we get there. But that song is kind of, and like you, I really like Bloodsport. I like the whole album. I don't even skip the instrumental. When I listened to this again, it had been a long time since I'd listened to this. I was like, damn, that's real good. And so I get why when this came on the scene, there was quite a buzz about these guys. And they were selling out Hammersmith Odeon and some of these bigger theater venues in the UK. And suddenly Europe, mainland Europe is picking up on this band pretty intensely, and they're kind of one of the new things to check out in 1980. So it's very, very different than the bulk of the EP to my ears. Let's see what else. It's a great debut that, frankly, after the next 3 albums, had I heard, and this is a precursor to what I'm about to say, had I heard the next 3 albums first, I don't think I'd have been much of a fan. And I will say that I came to this album much later in my discovery of this band. Had this been the first album I heard, I'd have dug it, but I don't think I'd have been like, oh my God, I got to get every album. I don't recall this when it came out. And I was, as I said, in 9th grade. So I was buying music at that point. I was buying Iron Maiden. I was buying Judas Priest Unleashed in the East. I was buying Yes Drama. That came out this same year. Yes Drama, one of my favorite bands. So this, had I heard this in 1980, I'd have been like, it's interesting. There's some cool tunes. And I may have even heard some of these songs at high school parties I went to. I don't know. I have no idea. But all I know is that had this been the first album I heard by them, I'd have been okay with it, but I wouldn't have like fallen in love with them as a band, and they wouldn't be a top 5 band for me. A lot of people that are old school fans are going to go, "What? Sacrilege!" But that's just how I'm wired for it. But this, of the first 4 albums, this stands out head and shoulders for me. It's that much better for me.
Yeah.
So as I said, if that had been, had that been the only thing that I heard when it was released, I probably wouldn't have chased down a lot more stuff after that. But next up, we got What's This For? You want to show that one there, sir?
What an odd,
and very strange, cover. Very odd artwork, man. They always
it's only
had
half the
piece
artwork, too, I guess.
Yeah, it is only half. Correct. This comes out in June of 1981 via EG and Polydor. Self-produced again. Hugh Padgham, who's a pretty famous, or was, he's dead now, I believe, producer back then. And he actually had something to do with Rush at one point in time. I want to say Power Windows? Or was that Rupert Hine? That was Rupert Hine. Hugh Padgham was involved with Rush at one point in time. I don't know if he engineered something, but he engineered. There was an issue with him and Jazz. They got into some type of a fight, and the story goes that they fucked up the mixing board, and it was like a knee mixing board, super expensive. I don't know if it's true because I heard different versions of whether it's true or not. But and they used an engineer on it. But go ahead. What do you think of this one here?
I would say this is a strange experimental album, but I think the experiment was kind of cool. I love the tribal percussion on here. I think the tribal percussion really just drives the songs. Like they are built around these really cool grooves, and they kind of just loop stuff and kind of build songs around it. It's a weird album, and I don't know, maybe like a little danceable. Like there's a little bit of like extra boogie to these. It's still very punky, I would say. Really just funky bass lines again. Funky bass lines all over. And strange pulsating synths, especially on which one? Butcher, which is just a weird song.
Yeah, it's very weird.
I don't know. This was just a strange one because, I mean, they kind of opened up with their first album, kind of showed off what their sound was, at least in this period. And I just think they just kind of got a little crazy in the studio. I was like, let's just get weird, because none of these songs screamed, "Hey, I'm a single. Put me on the radio." A lot of these just kind of screamed like, "Wow, this band's just strange," but it's kind of cool.
Well, I think follow the leaders, which was the signal.
Yeah,
kind of had a bit of a tension. You could follow because a little bit. There's a couple that might have worked in there. And then, of course, there's Madness. This is Madness.
Yep.
I love that song, man. It's so fucked up.
It's the whole album kind of is just a strange trip. I remember when I was jamming this one again and taking my notes, I was watching like weird roller coaster videos. Like someone made these sci-fi themed roller coasters. Like, why is this perfect right now? This is literally perfect. it's just an odd album, but I really dig it. Like you brought up the Fall Because, Tension, Follow the Leaders. Who Told You How, I think, is a really just interesting track. I didn't initially like this one, but I think coming back to it, I kind of appreciate it more just because, I don't know, this kind of feels like a fuck it, let's just do something weird and kind of fun. And again, that percussive drive to all the songs. Ferguson did a great job.
He's a fucking monster drummer. Having seen these guys 6 times, Paul Ferguson is the equivalent of a freight train behind the fucking drum kit. He is just percussive and propulsive to the point where you're like, how? And he's in great shape. He's a big dude too. He's probably like 6'3" or 4, and he's ripped, and he's old. Yeah, he's like 61 or 62. Nice guy. Met him very briefly, but he is a fucking monster drummer. It's like that. He beats the fucking shit out of the drums, dude. It's like, if you're a drum head, you don't want to see this guy coming. He's brutal.
It's a strange album, and I don't know. I think I appreciate it more now because I remember when I initially got this, because I got a lot of the reissues kind of in a batch. Like, I need all this shit.
Right.
Now.
So did I. Yeah.
And this one was just weird, but I mean, it was fun weird. Like, it was an engaging weird. Like, I wanted to come back to it, but I kind of got into other stuff that Killing Joke did much more. But this was still really cool.
Yeah, as I told you before we went live, for me, this album was probably. Let me see. I'm trying to remember here real quick. This one and Revelations and Democracy were probably. What's that?
Oh, I thought you were going to talk about Fire Dances too, but yeah, that one's.
Well, no. Hang on, let me finish the thought. This one, Revelations, and Democracy were the 3 that I came away with kind of different opinions on than I originally had. So for this one, and again, for some reason, all my fucking Killing Joke CDs got cracked. I'm not sure why. I used to carry a lot of my CDs around in a knapsack when I go to work like a dumbass. But I'm not one of these guys that has to have pristine fucking jewel cases. I'm not that guy. Like you, Nick.
Mine had a crack in it. Look at it. Mine had a fucking crack in it too.
I'm cool. Let me see.
Look at this.
Let me see.
Hold on. Look at that.
Where?
It's got a crack.
Oh,
right there.
Oh shit! Yeah,
right
it
there.
does. Okay.
Come on.
All right. You're not quite as anal retentive as I thought. Anyway, this album, when I put it on after listening to the debut, I was like, man, I'm going to be skipping every fucking track in this. I just know I am. I didn't skip one track, number one. Number two, I was shocked at how abrasively cool the guitars were in it and heavy they were in some of them tracks, especially Follow Because, Unspeakable, Follow the Leaders, and Who Told You How. There's some really good riffage in it. Like, it wasn't what I was expecting. When I put this on, I was like, I kind of had forgotten it. And I was pleasantly surprised. This one of all the albums that I re-listened to was the one that I was like, whoa, you really didn't quite nail that the first time around. And it's been, all these came out, 2007 or 8, somewhere in that range?
Yeah.
Well, this one's 2005. I think I grabbed all the reissues. I think I grabbed all the reissues around 2010. So when I talked about the fact that I got into them with, when I reignited my passion for them, I went out and grabbed everything in 2010 that I didn't already have. I had Democracy. I had Pandemonium. I think I had Nighttime, and I'm pretty sure I had I had Absolute Dissent. So only like 4 CDs, and I'm like, you know what? Why do I not own all this band's catalog? So that's what I went and did. Bought all the reissues, and I was familiar with like the debut, and the Yellow album, the second self-titled, but I didn't own them. And as I said to you when I came back into them in 2010, 2011, you could not find a copy of the Yellow Killing Joke self-titled for under $50 or $60 on eBay. You just couldn't find them. They weren't in print. And then it came out on Cooking. That one was out on Cooking vinyl. They then did a reissue of the vinyl, and I missed out on that, I believe. And then finally it's been reissued, and it's the only one I haven't got. But this one, The Fall Because, Unspeakable, Butcher is really a weird song. It's like a trippy, like a mushroom. You figured they were doing mushrooms or something like that, and all just sat around going,
spiritual,
let's do something. Yes.
magic.
And I love Madness, man. I love Madness. This is madness. I just love that fucking refrain. It's like, it's so 80s, It just sounds so 80s, and I love it because of that, So
that one really resonated with the whole industrial thing too. Like the first one definitely, but this one with more of that kind of looped sound and building on more steady percussion. And just the sound of it, like the weird bleeps and squawks and the more gritty guitars, like, this sounds like, shit that I love from Ministry.
The early stuff.
Yep,
the early
definitely.
Frontline, with a little bit more guitar in it. Let's see. I don't like it more than the debut. I feel it's a better written, Christ, come on. It's a better written advancement of the style, and it's more variety, but they still don't seem to have locked into what it is that they want to do entirely with this album. I think there's enough weirdness to it, and it's not consistent the whole way through. In other words, songwriting wise, but there is more deliberate synth melodies in it. I noticed the guitars are still slashing and angular and dissonant, but they're still tuneful. So I mean, you hear some angular weirdness to the guitars. And the way they're recorded, obviously, because of that era, with all the saturation and the wetness of a lot of the sound, because it's got a lot of effects and chorus and reverbs and stuff. But it's not like dissonant to the point where you're like, what the fuck is this? This is grating on my nerves. There's still something there. So for me, Fall Because, Unspeakable, Butcher, Follow the Leader, which was the only single. And then there's the Dubby Clubby, as I call it, Dubby Clubby. You'll hear that a couple of times. Madness. They're all very solid. This was a big surprise. As I said, this is probably the one album that I went and looked at and was like, wow, I really got it wrong on this. Do I think it's a top 5 album from them? No, not even close. But it's something that now if I put it in, if I put my CDs in shuffle in my car or something, this one came up, I wouldn't be like, oh, next, and jump to I'd listen to it,
Yeah. Again, this one, the appeal is the weirdness for me. Like the Fall Because, I mean, it's a decent single, but not much of it like latched on like a hook, like an earworm, like a big single. Like a lot of it is just this nice, continuous, weird listen that I just enjoy.
Well, I think a point to make here is this album shows they weren't a fluke with the debut, is really what it came down to. Which then propels us forward to July of 1982, where the band goes to Germany and records with Connie Plank. You want to show this one too, man? And Revelations is the album that comes out in July 1982. Sorry, not 22. Connie Plank, for those that do or don't know, was a producer that did stuff like Kraftwerk, Can, a lot of German krautrock bands, which seems like a strange marriage. When I read that, I did not realize that's, when I started reading about the album, I'm like, okay, I know that name Connie Plank. I'm like, wow, I did not know. And especially for a band that had self-produced the first 2 albums, that seemed like an unreal weird thing. I believe the record label had something to do with it, if I'm not wrong about that. And it's an interesting listen. So go ahead.
All right. This is kind of the point where I think they are searching for a new sound, and the record label is kind of pushing them to go in a more accessible direction. And I think it kind of hurt them on this one. It's definitely more polished, like just a bigger, more well-produced sound. I think Jazz kind of like reins it in a little bit too much. Like he sounds very subdued compared to like how experimental and weird he was in the first 2 albums. And you get like more of that goth rock sound that kind of pops up in there. I mean, overall,
it was gothy.
Felt tame. Like
it's cold sounding. This album's cold sounding.
It's very empty. And
empty, that's a good way.
Yeah. And I guess like I think was an Empire song was
Empire
supposed
song,
to be like the big single, I think, right?
Right,
Wasn't it?
correct.
There's no real hook in there that draws me in, and that was kind of an issue in here. Like these are definitely more geared for like mass radio play, pushing units, getting on the radio singles, but not much of this really just generated any of that. Like they just kind of sounded lost, and they're like they were playing someone else's music because this just didn't necessarily feel like them. Like there's a few moments here where you get some of the biting intensity coming back, but like the Patties Are Coming is pretty fun. I like that. Land of Milk and
That's
Honey.
a weird song. Patties Are Coming. It's very weird, man.
The last track, Dregs, pretty interesting. But unfortunately, like I've gone back to this one multiple times because I look at it, it's like it's a cool cover. I should like this. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't like this very much, but yeah, going back to this one, same issue. It just feels like Diet Killing Joke, like compared to where they were. Like this was the record label's album, not necessarily theirs. That's my take, though.
Well, the way that what I read about this album is that the record company was kind of pushing them for some type of a hit, and the Empire song was, I believe, the single off of it. Now, I would say the Hum is not a bad song. The way it leads off is a pretty decent tune. I do like the Empire song quite a bit. We Have Joy and Chop Chop. The first 4 songs I can get into. I don't like the Panties Coming. It's so fucking weird. It's just too weird for me.
It reminded me of the previous album a little bit.
And well, a little, actually, it does. Butcher a little bit. It's got that weird Butcher vibe to it. But the thing is, what it sounds to me like. Okay, the first thing I noted on this album is that, like it's more subdued.
Yeah.
The intensity is more subdued. The lyrical intensity is more subdued. The actual playing seems more subdued. And from what I gather, it was due to Connie Plank neutering the recording, or monitoring and neutering the recording, and the pressure that EG was putting on them to kind of get something that might be a radio friendly hit.
Yeah,
I don't hear anything that's on this that's very radio friendly to me. Even for the 80s, I don't.
It sounds like an attempt at it, but I again, they kind of felt lost because they already had established this sound, this weird thing that they were doing that was uniquely them, and now someone else is kind of ruddering the ship a little bit, and they're kind of lost at sea a little bit on this one. And that's just the whole feel of that album. Like,
Well, I think one thing you can really look at though too is on this album and the following album, which also they go back to self-production sort of, but they have an engineer that's working with them on that one. And engineers work on all these albums. But one thing I noticed is that a lot of these songs are much shorter.
Yep.
And that had to be a producer's influence, saying, "Hey, man, guys, you're writing these 5-minute songs. Nobody's going to play those." Even though they did play on radio in the 80s, they would put on like dub mixes and things like that on some radio programs. And this was pre-corporate radio, so you could, if you had a guy like a John Peel or something like that, he could play what he wanted to play, or a Don K or something like that. But the thing is none of this stuff on this album, for me, jumps out at me and says, this is a single and this is really, really good. Now, an interesting note about this is the last album by Youth, who is Martin Glover, the bass player, and he goes off to start producing and does a lot of producing, man. He does a shit ton of producing. He's made a probably a much more lucrative career out of producing than he ever did playing bass for Killing Joke, to be honest with you. I don't hate this album as much as I recalled. When I first heard this album, I thought I fucking absolutely hated it. Like, I honestly, when I first listened, I was like, that is repulsive. I don't want to ever listen to that again. It just, there's nothing there. There's no song ideas that jump out at me. And that's the biggest thing that I sort of hear, is that there's a sharp decline in the songwriting.
Yeah.
To me, the songwriting skill dropped off hard on this album. And again, allegedly it was due to Connie Plank. I just think there weren't a lot of good ideas for this album. It just feels that way and sounds that way. That said, I do like the first 4 tracks. Also, something very important to note. Now, I've seen two different accounts of it. I'm going to go with this one. But this is also the first album that Geordie started using his patented gear setup. He did not use it on the first two albums. He used a Les Paul, I believe, on the first album, maybe a Stratocaster, and he also, and Marshalls. And then on the second album, he used a Gibson. You got to be kidding me.
Hollow body?
Oh, my God. How am I fucking blanking on this guitar? I want to say Explorer, but it's not an Explorer. It's the one that Frank Marino uses. Anybody out there that's a guitar guy, I am, and I'm blanking the fuck out on this guitar. It has the two horns. Angus Young guitar. The Angus Young guitar.
An SG.
SG, thank you. I kept thinking of EG. That's why I couldn't get there. It's SG. Yeah, so he used an SG. But on this album, or at least on this album or the next album, he started to use a hollow body, a semi-hollow body, 1952 ES 295 with P90 pickups, the big fat soap bar pickups, and a Berman stereo ADT and Memory Man chorus, ADT delay, and Berman chorus amplification, meaning that on the stage when he's playing and when he's recording, when they're miking things, he's actually playing in stereo chorus, which is a very unique sound that very few people have ever done and crafted it well. And Geordie sounds like no other guitar player on the fucking planet as a result, I think. I think Geordie is such an underrated player, such an underrated writer, and just his sound is almost impossible to mimic, and it's because of what he did with that setup right there. And it started, I believe, on this album. Somebody else is going to go out and fact check me, go, no, man, it was this album. But I'm pretty sure I read it was on this album. But if not, it was on the next one, Fire Dances. So again, no one sounds like Geordie, clear or clean or distorted. Just nobody has that guy's guitar tone. It's not a metal tone. It's not a fucking hard rock tone. It's a Geordie tone, man. That's what it is. It's that simple. Another key little historical moment. They played Empire Song on Top of the Pops, which was a huge televised event. And when they got to the studio, guess who never showed up?
Geordie.
Jazz never showed up. Because Jazz had gotten it in his fucking wild ass mind that we were on the brink of nuclear holocaust, and he took off for Iceland. He took off for Iceland and fucked off and said he talked to somebody, that one of his gurus, and said, "Where's the safest place in the world to go if there's a nuclear holocaust?" Oh, Iceland, of course. It probably is, for all we know.
If you're in Greenland, there's like less people there.
Yeah, it's true. But anyways, there was if you watch the video, and it's on YouTube, there's a guy like in a beekeeper's outfit or a welding hood of some sort, like, one of those like big things where you can't see through the shield, and it's like goes onto the shoulders, everything. I think it's a welding hood. It might be a beekeeper's uniform. And he's standing there pretending to play keys, and Paul, who actually does sing, who can sing, is lip syncing the words. It's a total lip sync job. You can just tell. And you can tell by looking at Geordie and Youth that they're like, what the fuck, man? Like, this guy their lead singer doesn't show up. He's done that on a couple of situations. There was a time I remember back in like 2013 or 14, they were supposed to go out with the Cult, open up for the Cult. Jazz never showed up, and they had to cancel the tour like a week before for rehearsals. He just never came to the rehearsals, and the band are like, sorry, we can't do this. We don't have a singer. If anybody knows where our singer is, let us know. That was a post on, that's not a lie. That was a post on, I forget whether it was Blabbermouth or fucking, this is 2013, 2012, I think. Jazz fucked off and just was like, nah, I'm not going to go do that tour. Very mercurial guy. You know what I mean? He's very, very out there. But, anyways, so I just thought I'd throw that in there. Yeah. I like this album better than I thought I liked it, only because I really didn't like it very much to begin with. it is not one I'll ever reach for, and it's one that, frankly, maybe I'd take 2 or 3 songs off of in a comp, and maybe 2.
Maybe this one, it's one of those albums like bad album that I kind of want to like more, and I try to give
So
it
do
multiple
I.
chances, but yeah, like every time I'm like, man, maybe it's just bad.
I don't think it is just bad. I think it's just it was a step backward to an extent, and it's a, or maybe not backward, maybe it was more like a sidestep. Like, it just sounds like they didn't have a tremendous amount of good ideas for this album, and they kind of did a sidestep, as opposed to doing a fully immersing themselves in the albums. And it may have been because they were forced to do a producer. I don't know. Without talking to Jazz, and I've never, I did go looking for them, stuff for them to talk about each of these albums. Like when I did Genesis, there was tons of interviews of all the guys talking about each album. There's a lot of stuff out there on Killing Joke, and there's a lot of Jazz interviews, but they're very esoteric, and they're talking about globalization and food gathering, and all kind, just very, very heady things that I find myself listening to, going, God damn, this guy's really smart, but I don't know what the fuck he's talking about. And I'm not dumb. At least I don't think I'm dumb. Maybe I'm dumber than I thought, but
No, we would have told you by now.
you would have told me. That's right. Okay, so 93, we go to, or I'm sorry, 83. We get to, go ahead. We get to Fire Dances. They went back to self-production. And for me, this is a far more upbeat and lighter than Revelations. However, that's not a good thing. So go ahead.
Yeah, that's actually kind of what I wanted to lead off with. It is a bit happier, I guess, but there are things that I like about it more than Revelations. I think the guitars are a little bit more purposeful. Like they're just, I don't know, they just sound better. But there's a drawback because a lot of the songs are super repetitious, and I don't know, like they just kind of hang on to one thing too long. But I do like there's a bit more intensity in Jazz's vocals this time, and I think some of the weirdness kind of came back. Like they kind of loosened up a little bit. Like I imagine the whole Revelations process was, a lot of pressure. This one they kind of loosened up. They didn't feel as much pressure, maybe, even though I think there's probably still some on them. But yeah, actually that's pretty accurate. It's a happier album with simpler songs, I guess. And yeah, it's better, but again, this is another one where I still feel like they were searching for that sound, that perfect little blend of accessibility, but also still being them and their unique selves. And they almost found it. Like there's some songs in here I like. Harlequin, Lust Almighty, Feast of Blaze, Let's All Go to the Fire Dances. Pretty decent songs, pretty solid songs. It's just, again, you can kind of get the whole sense that they're searching, like they're trying to find this perfect little blend, and didn't quite get it here. Just made a kind of oddly happy album that was at least better than the last one, I would say, like by a narrow margin. But yeah, it's okay-ish. Again, we're not my favorite era here with these two albums, but I still appreciate them.
Okay, you and I are almost in lockstep on that. Far more upbeat and lighter than Revelations. The Gathering is okay. Was it Rejuvenator? Let me look here. I'm having trouble reading. Rejuvenation is okay. Frenzy's okay. Dominator's okay. Dominator's kind of weird. That's like the Butcher song to me on this album. And Panties Are Coming. Let's All Go to the Fire Dance is probably the one lone track I like. Mariano, you're not gonna like me, man. I pretty much hate this album. I pretty much fucking can't stand it. I tried to get, in fact, I couldn't even get through it. I actually skipped a bunch. Like I listened to each track for 2 or 3 minutes yesterday, and I'm like, I remember why I don't ever play this. I fucking don't like it. And I'm not kidding. This is the one album in their catalog I absolutely do not like, even over even over the one that I think I know you're going to peg as their last one outside the gate. Most of the reason I don't like it is every fucking song sounds the same.
Hella
Every
repetitive.
song sounds the same. And let's be honest here, as much as I love Killing Joke, and I love Killing Joke, man, top 10 band for me, pushing top 5 often. Two characteristics of Killing Joke that you absolutely, as a longtime fan, cannot deny. They will take a riff and beat it into the fucking ground forever sometimes.
Dry hump it until there's nothing but dick dust left.
Man, I never thought I was going to hear the word dick and dust together.
You're welcome.
Dick dust, awesome. They can sometimes, a lot of the time, it really works. It absolutely works. Sometimes it really doesn't. This album, it doesn't work at all for me. Now, ironically, Mariano, who is younger than me, I believe, Mariano, you're quite a bit younger than me as well. This is one of your favorites, and a lot of times it's where you come in on the band. I didn't come in here, and you're probably going to be surprised at the album that is my favorite, which is coming up. But this album does dick dust for me. It just doesn't do shit for me. I'm just not into it. And I can tell you, if I never hear a song on that album again, won't bother me in the least bit.
A lot of
the artwork's
grinding.
Yeah, the artwork's kind of interesting. But again, and I will tell you, the only other really positive thing I hear on this is there is development in Geordie's sound again.
Yep.
It's developing even further. And I can tell you straight the fuck up, and I said this to Nick before we went live. If you listen to Revelations and Fire Dances, and you really carefully listen to the guitars, you will hear Voivod in some of those guitars. And they were there first. Technically speaking, Geordie and Killing Joke might have made those sounds before Piggy did. That's not taking anything away from Piggy. Piggy took it to a whole nother level.
Oh, yeah.
But I'm telling you, there are a lot of weird angular guitar sounds and like triads, 3 notes that Geordie's playing on these 2 albums that I swear to fucking God, I was like, wait, that song right there starts out like a fucking Voivod song, like dan, 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 dan. And you're like, was Piggy listening to these guys? He had to have been.
I mean,
he had to have been. So I'm not saying that, not taking anything away from Piggy, because he's one of my all-time favorite guitar players ever. But I'm telling you, if Piggy was still alive, I would love to ask that guy, did you listen to early Killing Joke, man? Because it sure fucking sounds like it. And you took it to another level and developed that style. But again, very repetitive. Fuck that album. Okay, next up. I'm going to show mine first just because I'm deviating a little bit. But can you see that there?
Oh, you son of a bitch.
Can you see what that var is? Right? Oh, shit.
Nope.
Right there.
Right there.
That var is Jazz Coleman's signature.
That's pretty awesome.
I took this one and Pandemonium with me. And when I saw them on this tour, the Laugh at Your Peril tour, the 40th anniversary tour, which I saw them, it took me a while to figure out how many times I saw them. I've seen them 6 times. This was the last time in 2018 down in Baltimore. And I met Jazz, and it was a fucking unforgettable experience that I'll talk about in a little bit here. So go ahead. Let's get on to you, sir.
Well, I haven't seen him yet, and at least my copy's in better shape.
Yeah, mine's beat the fuck up, no doubt.
I fucking love this album. I absolutely adore it. This is one of my favorites.
Absolutely.
And I didn't get into it later. I knew about Love Like Blood. I've heard a ton of different bands cover it. It's a fucking gorgeous song, but
killer song.
The whole album is amazing. They finally did it. They had that pop sensibility, and then they were still able to be their creative, weird selves. And fucking Geordie rules on here. I have not been able to pry Kings and Queens out of my fucking skull.
Yeah,
dude,
so
that
good,
riff, Yeah, it's wedged in there.
So good.
It's never
The
leaving.
first song, Night
Oh.
Guard.
Oh, I love it.
So good. So good.
Electronic drums in there too. They sound really good. Like everything just fucking fits. Jazz sounds amazing on here.
He's
Multitudes is so fucking good.
Yep.
Like I don't know, like they just found it. Like for some odd reason, everything just gelled right here, and they made God, almost a perfect album, I would say. I adore this album. This is top 3, top 2. I don't know, man. It's way up there in terms of this.
It's way up there for me as well.
It's fucking beautiful.
Yep,
and
agreed.
You know, the 80s thing with the whole Nirvana thing, that was pretty fun. But dude, 80s is a great fucking song. So I mean,
it's killer.
If Nirvana's still a riff,
it's way better than Come As You Are.
Yeah. Come As You Are.
It slays that fucker big time. And I like that song. That's one of the few Nirvana songs I like, probably because it's a Killing Joke song.
It's just a wonderful album. Like, I will gush over this forever. I've jammed the living fuck out of this since we talked about doing this. Like, amazing.
Well, you probably have this one with all the bonus tracks, right? Now, I got to be honest with you. I did not get through the bonus tracks. And I remember there being a couple okay ones. They're not on par with the album, and there's reasons why you can see that they didn't. But, you know, like Blue Feather was pretty good, if I recall. The Maddening Crowd was okay, because that was a B-side, I believe, right? Yeah.
I skipped over them just because I wanted to keep going and get through the discography.
For me, it should be noted that they used Chris Kimsey, who was a Rolling Stones producer during this point in time, and he came in, and I believe he co-produced this. It was Jordy, and generally speaking, early on it was Jordy, and and we forgot to mention something huge about this album, dude. Shit.
Paul Raven came in and joined the fold. How did I fucking miss that? Paul Raven replaces Youth. Yep.
And you can really hear, I mean, Youth is a great bass player. Youth is very much he's a bopper. It's like, boom, 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 you know, he's like that kind of guy that fills a lot of space. Paul is more like, he's really intense. He's driving. Both the guys were great.
Yeah.
Both the guys were great. I do tend to think that there was a reason that Paul was the bass player when they made the switch over. It just seems like he was able to do a lot more. That's just my perspective on it. I don't know. Maybe that's. But anyways, Paul Raven.
He was an anchor. Like, he anchored the rhythm section. He didn't try to do anything weird. It was like, no, you give me what I'm supposed to do, and I'm going to fucking nail it.
I'm going to drive the song. He's a good song driver. Yeah. So what do I have here? I've got they were trying to raise their profile in the U.S. because they were pretty big in Europe and fairly big in the U.K., but they were not really anything in the U.S. I couldn't really establish whether they had done any or many tours prior to this album. I think they might have come over once or twice, but it wasn't anything significant. And maybe you can find something there while I'm talking. But here's what I come up with on this album. Suddenly, we have a band that can really write songs. They've suddenly put all the weird stuff and the more straight and narrow stuff, and they've coalesced it into a formula that is, yes, you could say, oh man, this album's made for radio. Yeah, at the time, yeah, it was. I agree with that. But there's a quirkiness and a weirdness and a killing jokeness to it that says, no, it's not really for the radio, even though this was, to that point, was their big breakout. Obviously, they had Love Like Blood, which is a fucking amazing song. I never get tired of hearing it. Neither did Nikki Sixx, apparently, because he stole the fucking bass line for Dr. Feelgood for that song. Just listen to it. It's fucking Dr. Feelgood. Dr. Feelgood is Love Like Blood. It's fucking Dr. Feelgood.
I don't know if there's that key change, but no. But the rhythm,
you're right.
100%.
Absolutely. Let's see. Why am I?
Here, you do that. I gotta pee, so I'll be right back.
Hey, you didn't pull up another window, did you? Because I'm echoing suddenly.
No, I don't have any other windows open. I don't hear an echo from here.
I am. Hello? Okay, it stopped. You didn't have anything up, did you? It was on
nothing.
just for.
I have Wikipedia open, and that's it.
Okay, that was strange. It just was momentarily. I was hearing everything I was saying. All right,
Your
I'll
house
wrap
is
up
on.
while you do
I
your
gotta pee.
thing quick. Okay, cool. Yeah, I haven't really been able to stay with a lot of this, guys. Sorry. Let's see. Yeah, I forgot to mention that, dude, and I can't believe I fucking missed that. That's terrible. And I apologize. I don't like it like you do, Mariano. I really don't like that album. Let's see. Dry Hump That Riff. Exactly. Dick and Dust. Yes, that's going to be the name of my album when I put it out. Dick and Dust. I agree about Jordy riff development. Exactly. Only ever saw talk about Robert Fripp interviews. Yeah, I'm sure he did. And why not? Although Fripp's a weirdo. They started the show with Love Like Blood. Yeah. Fuck. I mean, I could hear Love Like Blood at the beginning of the show and at the end of the show. I love it so much. Great song. Yeah, I think you're talking about Nighttime. Gotcha. Hey Pete, how you doing, dude? With Sympathy. Yeah, there's a little bit of that. Yep, no doubt. Real quick, my notes on this one here, which I came into, much later than when it came out, obviously. And I don't remember Love Like Blood. I was listening to radio in the 80s, clearly, and starting to go to shows and playing in bands and stuff. I do not remember that song being on the radio, but I'm sure it had to be because it's probably the song. It probably had to be the song that kind of broke them in the States. That and Nighttime. But I will tell you, man, Nighttime, the song, man, it's an anxiety-ridden riff, but it's so cool. And Jazz is he's so British sounding on it. Yeah, he just sounds so fucking. It's like if you got somebody from Monty Python to come in and sing "Nighttime." He just has that very British upper crust. Fuck you. This is Yep. Darkness Before Dawn, sleeper track on this album. Moody, really fucking kind of dark for this album because most of these songs are kind of upbeat in a lot of ways. Kings and Queens, definitely fucking killer song, but it's upbeat. It's an upbeat song. It's not like a downer. That song, Darkness Before Dawn, is the one that really jumped out at me. It was like, man, I forgot how good this song is. It is so good. What's that? Tabazan. That's the instrumental, I believe, right?
I can't remember. Yeah. What was the instrumental.
Yeah, Tabazan is. And then Multitudes. That's another great track.
Oh my God, I love that song.
I hate to say I don't remember Europe. That's terrible. Yeah, I don't remember it. And 80s, man. I mean, 80s, that fucking tune rips ass. It's a great song. It encompasses everything that was going on in the 80s. It's very much a snapshot of what was happening in the 80s with music and the post-punk culture and metal starting to infiltrate from the late 70s into 80s. It's just such a cool song. And somebody mentioned earlier that they were going to, when they figured out, actually, the story goes that when Nevermind came out, they were looking for the next song off of Nevermind to follow up Teen Spirit. And everyone was like, let's do Come As You Are. And Kurt said, I don't know, man, that's way close to 80s from Killing Joke. And everybody said it. Everyone was like, oh, shit.
I think it was
you're
Dave
right.
Grohl that said it. That said that.
Well, I think Dave said it to the guys in the band.
Yeah.
He's like, sorry, we filched that riff from you. And Kurt actually didn't want to release it initially as the follow-up single. He felt pretty worried about it. And the story is not that they looked into suing, but they really, at that point in time, Killing Joke didn't have the money necessary to go after a giant like Nirvana and Nirvana's record company, who I believe was, who was it at that
Geffen
time?
at
Was
that
it
point.
Geffen? It was probably Geffen, yeah. And you're talking Geffen was the biggest label on the planet at that point as far as money. And I think the guys in Killing Joke thought, well, you know, if we go after this and we lose, we're going to be spending shit tons of money that we can't. We'll be hemorrhaging money that we couldn't really do. And later on, obviously, they used Grohl on an album for drums, and there's a real close friendship there between Jazz and Dave. And you know, I believe, if I'm not unsure about this, I believe Jazz has sang songs with Foo Fighters live. He's done a couple of you know, over in Europe and UK, he's done some live appearances with the Foo Fighters. So,
Must have looked those up.
but yeah, so here's how I look at this album. It's aggressive, but more approachable. It's commercial. Sure, it's a lot more commercial, but who fucking cares? It's good. There's good music, there's bad music, and good fucking commercial music is good music. It's that simple. This album is fucking fantastic. It's top 3 for me. Easy.
Yeah. It's start to finish. It flows so well.
It does. Let's see if I had any other. Yeah, again, the Kings and Queens. What a highlight. So much, and it really highlights how much better songwriters they became suddenly.
Yes.
Because now we're not mining the same riff or the same drum beat or the same synth patch over and over like they did on Revelations and Fire Dances, and a little bit on the debut and even on the second album. There was a lot of that, you know, like locking into a groove and it was just going, like Dub. You know, you just lock into a groove and it just goes over and over and over. They were doing that with their more standard songs that they were writing, and it did, for me, it really did not work on the prior 2 albums. And I can tell you, if I had heard these 2 albums first from this band, I never would have ever looked. I never would have checked them out and gone any
Possibly.
further. I
But
would.
I didn't.
Okay, so killer album. Jazz signed mine. Okay.
Nice flex, dickhead. All right.
Next up, I'm gonna let you show this one, sir.
It's Jazz's face. That's him.
It is Jazz's face. And who's on the
There's
back?
Jordy.
It's Jordy. It's Jordy. And the other 2 guys are on the inside, right? I believe.
I believe.
Yeah, if you open up the
I got the dedication to Paul Raven.
Right. Well, this came out right after Paul died.
Yep.
But actually, on the inside, here, let me show you real quick. So on the inside of the fold out, it's Paul. But go ahead.
Oh, all right. This one, very different. Like this, I guess, is the next logical step after having like kind of a breakout album with Nighttime. They went for a more lush and kind of subdued sound. Like honestly, the synths really kind of take the main stage on here, and this is just
absolutely
like a flat out 80s album, like almost like a synth pop album, but with some, you know, kind of biting guitars here and there. But it's really good. Like I like this sort of lush feel, and granted, I kind of miss like a little bit more of the aggressive approach to some of Jazz's vocals, but he does really well in here. Like everything has like a really cool, I don't know, just kind of vibe to it, and it's a solid album. I don't know, like there's a lot of albums I really like by this band, but this one is kind of a sleeper. Like when I went back to it, because I remember like getting it and then like, it's okay. It's very different. It's a lot to get used to coming off of Nighttime, I think. Because Nighttime is still very guitar driven. This is very synth driven. But here, let's see, what did I write here? Yeah, actually, I even wrote it kind of just blends a lot of different 80s acts that I already liked. Like this is still very Killing Joke, but there's also kind of like Depeche Mode and maybe Duran Duran too. But they're still doing it their way. What else did I write? So I guess you could say it was almost kind of a Jazz solo project a little bit, but they all kind of came together. I wrote Flock of Killing Jokes too, because that kind of fits too.
Yeah. I kind of disagree with you a little bit there.
I like. Well, it's again like there's a lot of the
Depeche Mode. Yeah, the Depeche Mode I definitely hear. I don't so much hear. I get what you're saying with Flock, because Flock had those big keyboard pads where it
Washy
was like the lush.
synths.
Yeah. I guess I could see that. I'm
It's
going
a
to tell
good
you
album.
straight up. I'm going to tell you straight up. My favorite Killing Joke album,
Yeah.
bar none.
Victory
The
and
songwriting
Rubicon.
on this, Rubicon,
Oh.
fucking amazing.
Sanity.
Twilight of the Mortal. Good fucking. And for me, Love of the Masses.
There it is.
Oh
Was
my
waiting for that
God,
one.
that song is just fucking so good. Adorations. There is good guitar in here, man. If you listen, there's some really
It
good
is.
guitar.
It's there. It's
Adorations.
cleaner.
Sanity, oh, sanity, oh. Oh, it's just Jazz can sing like a motherfucker, like a nightingale. This guy has a great voice, and on this album, he showcases it 100%. You are 1,000% right. The keyboards take over in this album. To me, this is Killing Joke's Power Windows album. Do you get the analogy there?
Yeah, no, that is a fair comparison.
Because what this guy's doing guitar-wise in this album is akin to what Alex was doing in the compositions on Power Windows. And I fucking love Power Windows, so of course I'm going to love this. I love this 80s sound. Yes, it's very 80s. Does it sound dated? I don't know. I don't think it does too much. The new mixes, they're the new old mixes on this. The Julian Mendelssohn mixes are very keyboard driven. They're very much trying to place a song on the radio. I like them both for different reasons. I think I like the Chris Kimsey mixes better because Chris Kimsey was back for this one again. But, dude, the songwriting on here is fucking epic. It is just so damn good. And, you know, like you said, Rubicon.
Great song.
The only song I don't like on here is The Southern Sky because it's almost like the lighter one where you're like, okay, pull out your lighter and throw it in. It's just got that sing-songy chorus that doesn't work for me as well.
I kind of like that one, but again, like it has like the '80s vibe. Like if I turned on the radio,
that one's the most '80s song. That's the most '80s song on the album.
I don't know. I think the whole album it just has like honestly, like if you had told me it came out in 1986 and I would even look it up, I would have just believed you. It's like, yeah, no, this sounds like that later
no
80s
doubt.
Period.
But here's the thing.
Good.
But here's the thing. There's good 80s music that came out, and then there's really bad 80s music. This is very good 80s music right here.
Great.
And I really do not think if you spend time with this album and give it time to work its way into your neural pathways, it's hard not to say this is a brilliant album. Now, is it full of angst and anger? No, it's not. It's actually very hopeful, but it's also very dystopian. In a lot of ways, it's very dark and dystopian. The way the melodies are, the way the synths develop and kind of, as you say, drive a lot of the songs, Nick. Dude, I mean, I got fucking 2 pages of notes on this album. I'm not lying. That's how much I fucking love this album. I'm going to just say real quick.
Jeff's novella.
Well, I'm going to do it quick. It was recorded in Hansa Studios in Berlin. Who else was recording right around that time at this point? Do you remember?
The band Berlin? Sorry.
No. Okay, Rick. When did Rick fucking inhabit your fucking soul? No. One Mr. David Bowie was recording his Berlin trilogy during this era, and this sounds a lot like the Berlin trilogy. There's a lot of Berlin sound on these albums. Think about it. V2 Schneider, Hanging Moss Gardens, all those really trippy, synthy, dark wave sounds. That's straight from there, man. Hansa, Berlin. It sounds like it. Let's see real quick. I'm going to I think I hit a lot of it without hitting the notes. Again, lush pop songs, man. That's what these are. They're dark, lush pop songs.
I agree.
So many incredible melodies on this album. Again, but yet it's got a strange underlying dark dystopian feel. It reminds me of a film noir soundtrack listening to this album.
The black and white
what I mean by that
helps it too.
Well, that does. You're right. That does. it kind of helps you pave the way to think that way. But these songs sound like, you know, a lot of people are like, well, man, this sounds like Aha. Well, okay, that's a fair analogy to an extent. But if you've ever really taken some time and listened to Aha, they're one of the greatest fucking bands ever. I'm not even going to get into that, but they write incredibly lush pop songs, and that's what Killing Joke did here. Let me see. There's also a bit of a goth flavor to this album.
Yep.
Again, it's that dystopian dark feeling, but it's got a little bit more of a gothy vibe. And I'm not talking bats hanging upside down, Bela Lugosi's dead. You know, I'm not talking about that kind of goth. I'm talking about the lushness, the Depeche Mode goth.
Yep.
The Susie and the Banshees, My Bloody Valentine, shoegazy goth that's underlying a lot of these songs. That's going on there. You know, it's and also this album you could probably maybe sort of kind of point it more towards The Cure. There's a bit of a Cure vibe to it, maybe.
Yeah.
But I don't think I don't know. It's just, to me, this fucking album, honestly, it's to me, it's also their prog album. In a lot of ways, this sounds like their prog album because the song structures aren't beating a riff to death or beating a simple sound. There's a lot of dynamics going on in every one of these songs, and I you know, if you come away with anything in this deep dive, guys that watch this, people that watch this, you're gonna know I fucking love this album. And when I put it on yesterday, I felt this calm come over. I felt this like this oneness with this album. Yeah, it was bizarre. It was like, God damn, I love this album. And it wasn't my first exposure. It was fairly well down the line. And yes, it's very jarring. You know, if you don't listen to Nighttime first, this is pretty jarring. If you listen to Nighttime, it's not as jarring, I think, but it's definitely the outlier. Well, okay, except for the one after this. It's the outlier along with Outside the Gate. It's the outlier to their catalog in a lot of ways.
I think this album's really fucking good. It does seem like it gets shit on a little bit, but it shouldn't. Like, honestly, this is not an album to be shit on. Like, I think they were just creatively in a different headspace, and they wrote a brilliant album that was just very different from, well, anything they had done so far.
I'm going to read a couple of quotes real quick from Rate Your Music. You ever use that site? So I like to look at reviews on there of these albums as I go through. Yes, to cherry pick some ideas, but I'm going to say who, well, I don't have who wrote it down, but I'm going to say, these are not my thoughts, but I agree with them wholeheartedly on this album. I hated this album when it came out. Now it's my favorite Killing Joke records of all time. Why? One simple reason. I actually listened to it. That is perfect. That to me is a perfect way of putting it. The other quote I have is, thought this was a wussy sounding record, man. But now I hear the massive layered detailed bottom end and synths in this, and the detailed bottom 80s sound, and it's actually big, beautiful, epic songs. That shit spoke to me when I read those two. I was like, fuck yeah, man, that's me. I never hated it when I first heard it, but it took me a little while to gravitate to it, and I'm not ashamed to say it's my favorite Killing Joke album.
Again, I think that probably comes with like where you started, like me starting later on in the 90s with some of the more heavier stuff. Like that one was definitely like, whoa, hold on. But
oh yeah,
me, growing up listening to like Depeche Mode and Duran Duran, stuff like that, like there was that side of me that kind of came out. I was like, you remember this stuff? Remember how cool it was? Like, yeah, the hair was really bad though, but shut up about that. Listen. And I was like, it's cool.
But Nick, if you like Depeche Mode, you can't possibly not like that album.
Oh no, I love that album. This would be like
I'm saying anybody else out there.
Oh yeah,
anybody else out there watching this. If you like Depeche Mode, if you like The Cure, if you like Susie and the Banshees, if you like Joy Division, you're gonna really like this album. And if you're a child of the '80s, well, I'm a child of the '70s, but I grew up my formative years in the '80s. 80 through '84, graduating high school. Again, I never heard of this album. Had no clue about this album. But I'm sure if I'd heard it back then, I'd have been like, because I was just getting into metal at that point in time, and I'd have been like, oh, this is wussy crap. But now I listen to it, and it's like, man, this album fucking blows me. That album blows me away. I'm just saying. It just does. It really does. Okay, so June 27th, 88. I know you want to talk about this one.
No album this time. I don't know.
Oh, you don't have it. You don't have it. Hold on, I'll show. I forgot. I have it. So this is 1988. It's called Outside the Gate. Notice, although the other albums had Jazz's face on it, okay, like this one and this one, okay, the band are at least in the background on this one, right?
Yep. And
on this one, the band is probably on the inner sleeve. They had the other two guys, and they probably picked, Jazz is always the identifiable lead guy, of course. But on this album, you will see in the album artwork, and I don't have an album, there is no other mention of any other guys, or at least you don't see any other guys. Now, there's a couple reasons for that. Number one, Big Paul was fired, the drummer, and a founding member was fired during this recording, the very early recording of this. And Paul Raven requested that his name not be put on the album, although he did record the bass for it. He did not want his album used in the credits due to musical disagreements and over artistic content. In other words, those two guys did not like this album at all and didn't want to be part of it. Jordy is still part of it, although you got to hunt and pick for him a lot of the time, right?
Yeah. All right. This is my least favorite one, and by a lot. I like the lead-off single. America is a good song. I do like that song. The synth line is particularly catchy. The video, I think, is pretty fucking nuts with Jazz parading around his Uncle Sam.
Jazz. Yeah.
But
yeah, it's pretty off the cut.
This is the bloated, epic, almost kind of vanity piece, I think, of Jazz. He wanted to make this, I hate using the term rock opera, but that's almost kind of it, like rock opera, prog. And it is, it's kind of a jumbled mess of ideas, and I don't know, like it's mostly synths. Like there's some guitars on it, but it is really missing the guitars, like way in the back seat. Stay One, Jump Ahead, I think that's what it was. I thought that song was all right up until he started rapping. Yeah, that's the face I made too. That was the noise I made too.
Yeah,
man, no one reined him in, and I think that this band was just kind of, it was just not a good time. Like I'd listened to this multiple times trying to find some sliver of something I liked, but it was like, man, dude, it's probably just America. The rest of this album is just, and when it comes down to the big bloated epic at the end, the Outside the Gate was like, dude, just stop. This was so bad it got him kicked off the major label. Like
it did.
It did not sell well. America had
we should add that this album initially was kind of started as a Jazz solo album, and they started to have a lot of cost overruns in the studio, and in order to figure out hopefully enough sales out of it to recover some sales, they threw the Killing Joke name on it because, well, it's Killing Joke. The Killing Joke fans will buy it, as opposed to the fewer Jazz Coleman fans that might buy it because it's Jazz. Yeah. There is still that brand recognition of Killing Joke that you want to. It's like the Sabbath albums in the era after Ozzy leaves, and you got Seventh Star and you got Eternal Idol. There was an era there where Tony probably should have just called them Tony Iommi solo albums, but the record company's like, Yeah, great idea, Tony, except for we really want to cash in on the Black Sabbath name, and you owe us stuff, and so here's what you're going to do. That's kind of what happened here, and it's a mess. Overall, it's a mess. However, I don't hate it as much as you. Fire Dances is my one quick thing there. Killing Duran. I do not hear Duran Duran in...
I do. I
wait,
like
hold on.
Hungry
Shit.
Like the Joke. Hungry Like the Joke is great, though.
Yeah, I don't hear Duran Duran in even in the synth pop phase of Killing Joke. I just don't hear it. And I will tell you, I happen to like quite a bit of Duran Duran. So
Oh, do I have Rio?
and
I love Rio.
and I don't I do too, and I don't fucking make any apologies for it.
Nope.
You know, that's the era I grew up in, and I still love that shit. There's a lot of great songs there and a lot of great songwriting. And Simon may be a bit of a poof, but you know, he's had some pretty hot model chicks, so you know he's doing all right. You know, at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah. So here it is. The first cracks in KJ are appearing. Armor appearing during the recording. Big Paul was fired and replaced by a studio drummer, which I wrote his name down, but I can't find it. Let's see. What do I find here? Actually, Raven called Coleman and Geordie ego strokers during this that had taken over all compositional direction. And that's why he just didn't agree with the musical artistic content. It's extremely synthy, very kind of poofy. And it's not synthy in a good way like the prior album was. The synths on this album sometimes are almost cheesy sounding, and they're grating at times. They're obnoxious, yeah.
Yeah.
America, man, dude, I don't like that song.
I
just don't.
Synth like it's stuck in my head. I don't mind it. The rest of the album can go fuck itself. But
it's like motherfucking cheese hardcore.
Dude,
I do like the song.
Cheese.
I like the song after it. My Love of This Land is actually a real subdued, chilled kind of ballad that's pretty good. But other than that, but I will say, I'll tell you why I don't really like America. It sounds like fucking Midnight Oil. And while I don't mind Midnight Oil doing Midnight Oil, I don't want Killing Joke sounding like Midnight Oil. Let's see what else I have. Stay One Jump. Here you go. Here you go.
Dude, the rap bit.
Dude. Stay One Jump. Imagine KJ trying to do a funky ZZ Top rap song. It's awful.
Like, some of the music isn't bad, but when that rap section came out, I was like, that's it. I fucking quit.
Yeah, well, Ferguson contends this album really started as a jazz soul album, but cost overruns made the label push for it to be a KJ album. Should be noted, jazz had been... Oh, yeah, this is a big thing to note. Prior to this and during this and a couple years prior, jazz had started to study composition with actual orchestral leaders, a lot of them in Russia, actually. He had a lot of ties to... I want to say the Moscow Symphony or some symphony over in Russia. I remember it, but I can't remember it. And he really wanted to prove that he could write elaborate musical compositions. And like you said, it almost sounds like it's almost like he's trying to write a rock opera or a play of some sort. And
yeah,
it doesn't work. It's just not good. Like I said, America lead single, cringy as fuck. Stay on Jump, awful. Unto the Ends. I kind of like this one. It's grandiose with a lot of synths and orchestrations. That one's not bad. The Calling has a bit of a gothy Mission UK feel to it. I noticed on this album, jazz sounds a lot like Wayne Hussey of the Mission UK. There's a real similarity. If you listen to their voice on this album in particular, you can hear Wayne Hussey. Trash. I wrote one song is Trash. What's that? Obsessing? What's that song called? That's my note. Obsession. Trash. Tijuanesco. This one is okay, but it's so weak overall for Killing Joke. And then the final song, The Outside the Gate, is the big epic prog synth track. It's over the top. Although jazz gets into his crooner phase on this song, and it's over the top. They tried to show that they were prog musicians on this album, and it just sounds weirdly synthetic and doesn't work. I don't think it's as horrible as you feel it is, and as most make it out to be. but it's right there with Fire Dances for me as far as not being very good. And it was never even issued in the United States initially. What's that tell you?
Probably for the best.
Probably,
I mean,
yeah.
in this, it's fucked up that I still am eventually going to get a copy if I find it for a reasonable price. You know, just because it completes the circuit.
Yeah, it completes the discography. Plus, it's worth a listen maybe once every 7 or 8 years just to go, yeah, this really still sucks pretty bad.
Yeah, America's fun.
And as you said, Virgin dropped being their distributor, and EG dropped them. So, but EG was already in trouble at this point in time. So, let's see, where else are we at here? We're at November of 1990. And do you have this one? Do you have the Candlelight?
Yeah,
okay, so you got that one.
Yep.
Let me see the back of that one. Is that the 2-disc version or the one?
This is the 2-disc one, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah.
You have a little bit different version than I do. Check mine out. Mine's the Candlelight.
Oh.
And it's the
mine's Candlelight too, but
it's the box.
I didn't get the box.
Yeah, it's the box with the big fucking super duper book in it. Like the book is fucking 9 million pages long.
Holy shit.
And then on top of that, it's got a digi, sort of like, well, not a digi, but a cardboard sleeve. And what's really weird, and I'll be interested to see if yours are the same. Are they all black?
No.
Yeah, mine are all black.
Yeah, mine are just standard CDs.
Yeah, from what and this one also has. Oh, you don't have the dual disc then, do you?
No, I have a.
It's got the
disc 2 separate. Oh, you got is that a DVD?
So, yeah, mine's a dual disc, meaning
okay.
There's the let's see real quick here. Let me just read it off to you real fast. So, okay, so on disc 1, it's got the standard album. On disc 2, there's an audio side and then a DVD side. They have the video for Money Is Not Our God, and then on the dual disc side, on the audio, they have the Party demo, the Fanatic demo, Solitude demo, Jubilation, which is the Beautiful Dead demo, and then Age of Greed Live, which is like 12 or 13 minutes long. I believe this one is not so easy to come by anymore. And inside is the flyer for the Killing Joke, and I'll show you this too while we're here. I have this one as well, which is not the 2 CD version. This is all the mixes and rehearsals.
Oh.
So do you have this one?
No, I don't have that one.
Okay. So are you seeing it?
Yep.
It's got all the mixes and rehearsals. So it's got Money Instrumental, Hideous Remix of Money Is Not Our God, Intravenous, Money Is Not Our God, Slipstream, Intro Vocal, like all that kind of stuff. Then it's got a live set from France, 91, of this era of band. So I don't listen to this one too much. This one's more my speed. I hate those dual discs though, because they always fucked up in my CD on the car. But what's super cool about this is you get an all black CD, which is kind of wicked. I don't know if it's worth a lot more. I never went and looked it up on Discogs. But I kind of expected you to have the same one I had.
No, this is the one that I found, and I mean it is a reissue, but this was one I was missing years ago. Actually, I bought this in a record store from my buddy who I still see, and this was one that I was missing. And fuck, I shouldn't have been missing this. I love this album.
Well, go ahead. Give us your thoughts on that one. I'll scroll
this is the giant apology for that last giant fuck up. This is right back to the grittiness, the rawness. In fact, I think to this point, this is their most aggressive album. I absolutely love the sound of it. They have Martin Atkins on drums, Skinny Puppy, Pigface, pick a fucking industrial band.
Yep, good mention
nasty
there.
Bass tone on here, like Raven bass snarls on this bitch, and this gets pretty metal. Like, I mean, there's like kind of like a blast beat on the title track, which this is Extremities, Dirt, and various Repressed Emotions. All of that contained here. It's just super aggressive again. And this again, like when I was listening to this in order, this was such a refresher. Oh man.
Well, I think we need to mention this is the album where they start to slide into what we would call heavy metal or
Yeah,
more metallic range here.
it's definitely way more aggressive. Again, biting, but I mean, I guess you could call it metal, but at the same time, it's still on the cusp, I guess. But it's noticeably, again, aggressive. And I think maybe they just sort of embrace the fact that at this point, industrial metal bands and industrial bands have been heaping praise upon Killing Joke for years, just in terms of like, you guys were super influential. And maybe they started to listen to what they had. It's like, yeah, I can hear us in here, but this sounds just meaner. I like it. What else I hear? Do the flat out industrial metal vibes though? Was it Inside the Termite Mound?
Mound, yeah.
Fucking awesome.
Buzzing, intense.
Slipstream, intravenous, struggle. Dude, I really dig this. Money is not our God is a great lead-off single because it makes a statement like fuck you to giant record labels' expectations. We're here to do what the fuck we want, and it's going to be loud and it's going to be angry. And I think that's
right. I think we
Cabinet of Dr.
Caligari.
Yeah. So fun reference.
The somnambulance guy, the guy that was asleep in the cabinet. Yeah.
Awesome album. I really dig this one.
Yeah, I think we ought to note here. I didn't note. I don't think you did either. Virgin and EG Let 'Em Go, but this album is the lone album that came out on Noise Records, which is interesting. That really shocked me. Now, originally it came out on Noise, okay? You and I have represses, reissues. As I said, mine came out on Killing Joke. Mine came out on Candlelight, and it was licensed from them. This is 2007 was when I got this, and it came out in 90. So, we're talking 17 years later, I finally picked it up, which is kind of weird that it took that long. But I don't think I like it as much as you. I like it, but let's hit a few notes here. Again, first album and only album for Noise. There was a sudden shift to very heavy, almost maniacal. God, why can't I read my writing? The very heavy material, riffs, almost maniacal. The new direction was the synths were almost gone. Paul Raven returned for this. Okay. Yep. As you said, Martin Atkins is in the fold, who was in Pill, Public Image Limited with Johnny Rotten, Ministry, Pigface, and later 9 Inch Nails even. This one, the one thing I like to think about, and I don't know where I saw this, though, that Killing Joke's anger is in their music is really real, though. You know what I mean? Like, you hear stuff like 9 Inch Nails and Korn. Okay, I'm mad. I'm so mad. I'm so
Korn's
angry.
more sad now, but yeah.
What's that? Korn's more sad. Okay,
Korn's more sad.
Well, I'm glad to hear. I'm glad to hear they're more sad. And not that I'm shitting on those bands because I like 9 Inch Nails and I don't really like Korn, but there was a period of time that I listened to a Korn track or two here and there, and I don't hate on it, but like Killing Joke's anger is fucking visceral, man. You feel it. The song, the lyrics to the song, sorry here. Age of Greed. Holy fucking shit, man. Like if jazz could actually sharpen those words into arrows to hit every record executive's heart or to hit every world leader's heart, that song would be lethal. The lyrics to it are just so fucking on point and so legit real, man. Here's a rock star that is struggling to survive because his record label dumped him. And a lot of people think, everybody, when we think about rock stars, we think about Metallica, and we think about those big bands that get giant. There's a million fucking bands out there that barely make it, and guys have to go fucking work a day job to continue recording albums now more than ever. But I mean, back in the day when, you saw these giant bands like Floyd and Rush and stuff like that. Those bands were in an era when record companies were just throwing money at them, and they had to pay it back, of course. But they were able to pay it back because album sales worked. Well, 1990, we're starting to see the advent of streaming is coming. Not now; it's not for that album, but what I'm getting at is that digital stuff is happening pretty intensely, and we're losing the ability. Artists are losing the ability to become rich and famous. Not that Killing Joke was ever going to become rich. They may be famous, but they probably were never going to become mega rich. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Let's see. This is a battering ram of sound, an unrelenting lyrical aggression. Centering on the deformities of thought. This is the lyrical stuff that I saw someone write this somewhere. I don't know who. This wasn't on Rate Your Music, I think. No, maybe it was. It's a battering ram of sound and an unrelating lyrical aggression, centering on the deformities of thought generated by living in a capitalist system. Now, if you know a little bit about jazz, he probably is a full-fledged socialist. He's probably not that far off from communist in a lot of ways. He has a very communal way. Yeah, nihilist. Absolutely. That's a good way to put it. Yeah. The guitars and intensity are back in this album triple fold. Money's a Ripper, Age of Greed, railing against capitalist and geo-commerce, fucking killer track. Beautiful Dead. Oh, love that song. And that's one they usually almost always play live. It's just such a cool song. You got those creepy synths starting out at the beginning. And then you get fucking Geordie's guitar and the way jazz enunciates on it, da 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 for the beautiful dead. And it's just like, oh, it's so good, man.
He sounds vocally very aggressive on here too. I like that. Like he was pissed.
He's going for the throat. Yeah. He's going for the jugular. Intravenous, killer track. To me, that's the sleeper track on here. Also, Inside the Termite Mound, groovy, funky, dark, lumbering, nasty track.
Heavy.
Solitude. Oh. Solitude's a grinder. I don't really love that song. North of the Border. Points to the next album, that song a lot. And Slipstream, I like that. I like the guitar on it. That's a huge killer track too. Yep. Slipstream's really killer. The rest of the songs, the party. I listened to the demos, and the demos are interesting because they're very different. Like the party's a cool track. It's very atmospheric and anthemic, and the Fanatic is an anthemic and atmospheric track. Has a little bit of common with Brighter Material. So I think that's everything. There's a different mix of the Beautiful Dead in there that's really good. So all right, so you want to show the next one, Nick? We're into 1994.
Yep.
And this was your entry point and my entry point, right?
Yep, this was it. I saw this in a band. I remember the band, and I also saw it was on Zoo Entertainment, which that was attached to Tool, and I was a giant Tool fan. So yeah,
I remember seeing that too.
Perfect Storm, and when I jammed this, like holy shit! Like again, heard about them through Metal Maniacs. I don't know what I was expecting, but from the article, it wasn't necessarily sounding like a metal band. But when I heard this, it was heavy, but it was huge. This album is a giant fucking scope. Right away, the opening track, Pandemonium, dude. I love these giant Middle Eastern rhythms, the extra percussion. There's a little bit more of that traditional, like, industrial metal sound to it. Absolutely just catchier than hell song. And then when you get into Exorcism, which is fucking visceral as hell, it's driven by like pretty much one stomping fucking riff and Jazz completely losing his fucking mind. Amazing. But of course, Millennium, such a goddamn good song. Like that one had me hooked. I mean, I was already hooked, but as soon as I heard Millennium, I was like, yeah, that's a single. and that's a good single. It is a rocker, and
Yeah.
the pulsating synths and that like little machine gun sort of bang, that's the absolutely
It's
awesome album. It made
like a
me a
machine
fucking
gun.
fan. Pleasures of the Flesh, Communion, you gotta throw those in there too. It's just fucking awesome. And again, like Exorcist, that was the one that pretty much assured me, I was like, yeah, this is kind of metal, or exorcism rather, but it's again different.
It's metal, as Marty likes to always say. It's metal adjacent.
It is.
There's no way you can't hear the fucking metal on this. Is it thrash? Is it,
No.
is it death? No, because death, well, I guess death was around at this point. Yeah, death metal was around.
Yeah.
But it wasn't, it's not death metal. It's not thrash metal. They've never, there is a track somewhere here coming up that I call the thrash metal KJ piece, but I'll have to get there when I get there.
Yeah.
But it's metal adjacent hardcore.
Oh,
man.
yeah.
There's a lot of, and everybody talks about, well, Killing Joke, are they really industrial? No, they're not really industrial, but they set a blueprint for a lot of industrial bands to follow because of their aggressive tendencies, their intensity, sometimes beating that riff to death for fucking 7 minutes long. You could hear industrial going that direction. So a lot of people, someone set it up here really well. Crates Cloud says, I like how influential while remaining fairly unknown Killing Joke are. And that is a really critical thing. Killing Joke aren't relatively unknown. They're pretty well known in the musical sphere of the world. But I will tell you this much. If you pulled 100 people off the street that were music fans, I bet you 80% of them would say, oh, yeah, I've heard of that band. But what do you know by them? Well, not really anything.
Millennium.
But I know they're really important. Or maybe they may have known Millennium. Or maybe they heard Money Is Not Our God. Or, I mean, it's not like they ever had a fucking hit single.
Yeah.
Or Love Like Blood maybe is the closest you could ever get with them as far as having a huge single. The thing with Killing Joke is they're not that unknown. They're kind of like King's X.
Yeah.
Everybody that knows metal and rock and hard rock knows King's X. But if you said, yeah, what's your favorite album? Well, don't they have a Dog something album? Or, a lot of people don't know them other than just the name. They know how influential they are. They know other musicians love this band, but they've never really taken the time to go dig into their catalog. That's really what it comes down to.
Oh, dig, start fucking digging, because this one it opened up the floodgates, and then I just fucking went after shit pretty much after this. But yeah, this was the first sample, and it was enough to get me interested. And yeah, I can taste the salt of Millennium's Tears, and this album has taken the wealth of my years.
Taste the salt of my tears.
Great chorus.
Years. No Millennium.
Fear Factory did a really good cover of this too.
Who did? Fear Factory.
Fear Factory. Yeah, it was on that terrible album Transgression, though.
Oh shit! I didn't know they did that one.
Yeah, the album it's on isn't that good. But yeah, I absolutely adore this album. Connected to me.
Is that your favorite? That's your favorite, right?
Man, dude, that became more difficult as I continued through this, but this one's definitely up there. It's, I don't know, it might be below Nighttime, or like it can be like 1A and 1B, or
right. Sure. Hey man.
1A, 1B, 1C, 1D, 1E. I don't know.
I'm all right with that. I totally get that. I mean, I tried to do a top 5, and next thing I knew I had like 8. I'm like, shit.
Yeah.
Like I don't know if I can do this. I honestly don't know if I can.
You end up liking them for like different reasons. Like that one, I have the nostalgia thing on my 100%. Side. It's also just a huge album. Like the scope of it feels massive. It's massive. Bigger,
massive.
Well, all right, kind of like Outside the Gate, but they didn't fuck it up. Like they made a big album.
Yeah,
like there's orchestration, the cultural elements. It's amazing.
Okay, so this came out on Butterfly Records initially, which was Youth's Martin Glover's record label that he started. I don't think it's called Butterfly anymore. I think that it's called something else. Youth returns for this album. Paul Raven leaves. There was a lot of musical chairs in the rhythm section in these following years. Only Geordie and Jazz have been there from the beginning and
I think
stayed
Paul
there.
went to Prong.
Yeah, I think he did. And
Yep.
then didn't he play? Didn't he have something to do with Motorhead at one point?
I don't know. I don't know if he was on
Well,
any.
no, he wouldn't be in Motorhead because that's
Yeah.
Lemmy. Why the fuck did I? Why did I think there was a Motorhead connection with Lemmy and Paul?
Let
I
me
swear
know
there
everybody.
was some sort. Well, of course. This is their best-selling album, as far as I'm aware. And once again, I'm gonna flex a little bit.
Motherfucker.
I'm gonna flex a wee bit here. You can see that's one Jazz Coleman's. I wish I could flex more and show you the picture of me and Jazz hanging out, but unfortunately, my ex-fiance's daughter destroyed my computer that I had it on. I didn't have any backups of it, so I lost shit tons of great pictures thanks to that little witch.
Here, I'll be
Anyway,
back.
moving on.
I'm gonna go take my smoke break and pee again because I drank that
I
entire
know.
pop. But yeah, go for it. Run through. I'll be right back.
So this one comes out August 2nd, 94 on Butterfly Records. They used a come on, man. Oh, it should be noted that several vocals on this album. I believe for Millennium. I believe for it's so hard to read this because they have the tracks in a circle. I hate when bands do that. Millennium, I believe Pandemonium and Labyrinth, maybe. Jazz cut the vocals in Cairo in the Great Pyramid. Like he literally sang the vocals in the Great Pyramid. You can see that on the Death and Resurrection documentary. There's some cool footage of that. But yeah, so this to me is a much heavier, much more streamlined effort than the prior album, Extremities, which I do like a lot. But I like this. It's to me, this is their prog metal record, if you will. Killing Joke doing prog metal, only not widdly wanky prog metal. But there is a lot going on in these songs. They are super, super fucking dense. The production is super dense, but everything stands out. And there's a lot of orchestrations, whether they're synthetic or real. I believe they're both. There's a huge amount of Middle Eastern influence on the sounds in this album. You know, if you don't like Middle Eastern sounding music, you're gonna hate this album because there's a lot of Middle Eastern vibes to it. With regard to there's tablas and ouds and sitars and all kinds of cool ass shit on here. It's over the top. And of all their albums, this is kind of their over the top one that I wouldn't have expected them to follow up Extremities with, but I'm glad they did because this is the album that I first heard and it blew my mind. As Nick was talking about, Pandemonium, great tune, killer opening track and single. Exorcism, almost a thrash song. This is the song that I think is about as close as Killing Joke ever gets to thrash metal. For me, I think it is. Millennium, chugging, riff fest, heavy track, also very Middle Eastern, just a killer track. Communion, droney, super Middle Eastern vibe. Tablas, vocals always sound crazed on this album for me. And it's got a killer chorus, man. Communion, so fucking good. And then my sleeper track, which really isn't a sleeper track, Black Moon. That's probably my first one. It's the most dark and mystical sounding song on it. Labyrinth is super anxiety inducing. The synth, it's jittery and bouncy. There's wah-wah guitar on this song on Labyrinth, which frankly, I don't ever recall hearing a lot of wah-wah in Geordie's playing. There probably is that it's buried in the mix and stuff, but I never heard it. Jana is kind of like the single. Jana is kind of like the. Are you there, Nick? No, he's not back. Okay, so Jana is kind of like the ballad on the album. I would kind of put it super killer track. A lot of people love Whiteout, and it's a live staple. It's probably the most industrial and clubby song on the album. It's not my favorite song, strangely. It sounds like a Ministry track for me in a lot of ways. Pleasures of the Flesh, sort of a brooding, dark, sprawling piece. Again, kind of it's kind of a proggy track in a way. And Mathematics of Chaos, pulsing, rhythmically, chugging, cool guitar on this song. There's a lot of cool guitar on all these songs. I would say my only problem with this album, and again, I think Pleasure of the Flesh is really underrated. I want to see if Nick agrees with me here. Nick, you back? No? Nick? Oh, Nick, are you there? Nick? I should mention, too, that there was the drums were played by a guy named Jeff Dugmore on this album. And he also Nick Walker was playing keys on it. I will say that, and I don't know if you agree with this, Nick. I'm curious. I waited for you on this. Okay. I went through all my other stuff, but one of the things, a point that I wanted to, maybe the only negative about this album, and it really can be stated about this and the not so much the next album, although there's one or two songs on there too, and then Hosannas and also Extremities. A few of the tracks just go on for too long. There's an editing issue. Yeah, there's an editing issue that KJ have always struggled with, in that sometimes their scope of what is a song needs to finish it out. And I think this is more based on Jazz's lyrics a lot of the time. He wants to cram a lot of stuff in there. So it's like, well, instead of a 4-minute track, we need to make this an 8-minute track because I have 17 more stanzas to go. You know?
Yeah.
And
I got that on Pandemonium. Like, the end of it is kind of drawn out. But I mean, it's one of those, like, if it's a cool riff, I don't mind hearing it. And if they're adding stuff to it, and there's generally like layers to it, like same thing with Exorcism, like it's a long band, like it's a good heavy riff, and he's just freaking the fuck out, and he's got to get it out. But yeah, it does run on a bit long. But again, if you're dry humping a good riff, that's better than dry humping something terrible. So
yeah, I can't disagree with that, except for, I guess my overall point is that I will tell you, as a massive Killing Joke fan, the one thing I don't like about Killing Joke from time to time is they don't know when to end a song sometimes, or they don't know when to look. That's a great fucking riff. 4 minutes of that riff, mind fucking. 7 minutes of that riff, starting to reach a saturation level. And that's my only criticism of all this period of and actually of Killing Joke as a whole, as a band, as a whole. The repetitive thing sometimes is there, especially on certain early albums, and on some of these later albums there is some repetitive riffing, but it's the ability to know, and this is where I think a producer would come in handy a lot of the time with them, and why they probably self-produce, because they don't want anybody saying, dudes, that song is 9 minutes long. Do you think maybe you could, I think you could do what you need to say what you need to be able to say what you will about that in 5 minutes or 5.5 minutes instead of 9.5. And that's where they sometimes have, in my opinion, a struggle.
Yeah. People like a lot of jazz. What do you think of that?
But they got better. But they got better with Absolute Dissent and 2012. I'll say that. I really think they have. And even on Pylon, there's not a lot of 8 or 9 minute tracks. Like, there are a few. There's one or two, but there's not a lot like there were in this middle period. Like, from Extremities on through even Democracy to it, or Hosannas. Hosannas, we're gonna get there, and I like Hosannas a lot. But man, that's the big offender for me on big time. And you probably like that album a lot, and I do too. But a couple songs just drag like motherfuckers on that album. Okay, so Democracy, you have that one
right here.
This was also on Zoo too, wasn't it? Or Butterfly and Zoo?
God, let's see. Yes, it was on Zoo and Butterfly. There it is. Yeah. And Big Life, another distributor there.
I don't know what. Now, see mine. Yeah, mine says Big Life. I don't see the Zoo. I know my original. This is the only Killing Joke album I had and got rid of once. Yeah. Oh, wait a minute.
There. Whoop.
It's on. You know what? Mine does not say that.
Huh? You might have.
I think you. No, I think you have an OG copy, and here's why I say that, because I got this later. This was one of the latter ones I picked up. Let me look at some, because I'm looking and mine says Butterfly Big Life Festival.
Mine does not
Festival
say.
Records, Big Life Records. But you know what? This says 94, 96, and 96.
Mine just says. Oh wait, no, it says Big Life Records 96, 94 Limited or LTD.
Yeah,
yeah. Yeah, but it most just says 96.
But I don't see anything on mine about Zoo. But the interesting thing is I remember my OG copy had Zoo on it. I remember seeing the emblem. So that's weird. But this looks like it's an original. I don't know. I got to look that up on Discog and see what the deal is with that. But go ahead.
Bit
I'll
of
be
a
right back. I'm gonna take
a
piece. So make it go for a bit. All right.
This one was a bit of a falling off for me. I really enjoyed Pandemonium. Again, I like that just kind of grand scope that has. This one kind of like settled into like a more alternative rock sort of feel to it. And well, they kind of botched the production. I believe this is the one that Youth actually did the production, and I kind of muddied it up. Guitars and bass kind of blend together a little bit too much, and it's a lot more acoustic guitars, less synths. There's less of the biting heaviness that was really surfacing in the previous two albums. And I don't know, at this point I didn't want to see Killing Joke go back to like a more relaxed sound. This, I don't know, like listening to it, I kept thinking of bands like Live. I don't think I should be thinking about Live while listening to Killing Joke. I should be thinking about Killing Joke, but I don't know. This just is an odd album. There's some decent songs there. Like I do like Aeon, Savage Freedoms, not too bad. Medicine Wheel, Absent Friends, but not much on here really jumped out at me. And this is an album I don't go back to very often. I went back to it, listened to it again, for the sake of this one, just to get a fresh take on it. And well, I mean, it still doesn't do very much for me. I mean, that's pretty much all I got here. I'm just waiting for Jeff to get back. There is some cool tribal percussion. I think that's all right. I kind of haven't heard that much of that. I mean, there was some layered percussion on Pandemonium that was pretty cool, but I don't know, here again, the mix just does not help it. And I don't know, like the whole feel of it is like a directionless jam album. Like, hey, let's just jam these things out. Let's kind of go by feel. And I don't know, Pandemonium felt way more structured. So did Extremities. This, I don't know. I just, there's one I kind of dreaded going back to because I know I initially didn't like it, and then going back to it again, I was like, yeah, no, I still don't really care for this album very much. But well, I don't know. Jeff might like it more. But I might as well read some comments here. Oh, come on. Oh, Jacob. No. But I know I don't like that album though. And you own a bad Killing Joke album. Shameful, Jacob. They don't make a greatest hits for these bands. You have to get all the albums, and I at least appreciate that. But yeah, it's I mean, I just like Outside the Gate more. Like I think that's way more cringy, and I don't know, like probably Fire Dances I don't like as much, but yeah, I don't know. It's just, I don't know. It's odd. It feels like a weird shift from what they were doing because they really honed in on a cool sound on Pandemonium, and this one just feels, I don't know, like demos for almost like another project. Let's see. Holy shit. Dude, Monster Voodoo Machine and Green Jello. Dude, I actually have Monster Voodoo Machine's 2 albums. Fucking Supper System. Awesome fucking album. Let's see. Yeah, for a little bit, Ryan, they were on Zoo Records, or at least that was the distribution deal. Like they were also, again, like multiple labels. You got a lot of that.
Sorry about that. I'm back.
Oh, not a problem.
You still going?
No, I kind of pooped on it a little bit. This is one of my least favorites. And it's muddy and kind of a jam session, and I don't know, like there isn't much that really grabs me on Democracy. So yeah, not a favorite.
You'll probably not be shocked to find out that I actually like this album a lot.
Of course you do.
The reasons, a couple of reasons. Again, Jeff dug more on this album, like on the last album, on Pandemonium, and this Nick Walker guy on keys. This is a happy sounding Killing Joke album.
Yeah.
For them, it's a very up sounding album. There's a lot of acoustic on this, which you rarely ever hear on any Killing Joke, and you really rarely heard it before, and you're not going to really hear it much again. There's a lot of acoustic playing by Geordie on this, which I really dig as a guitar player. This came out April 1st, 96. Youth produced it. Yeah, the production is dense. Dense is a good word. Muddy. You hear mud, really?
I hear like honestly, I think the guitars and the bass kind of run into each other in that mix. It just feels like unnecessarily dirty. Like there's a difference between getting like a good gritty kind of natural sound and just being kind of muddy, and this is more on the muddy side for me.
Yeah, I think it's washy. It's washy.
Yeah.
A lot of stuff, it doesn't have a lot of super definition to the guitars, which they had on the last album. The last album was fucking guitars in your face, blasting your fucking orbs out. This doesn't have that. What I think it does have is a lot of pretty decent good songs, though. And that's just me. It's got a bit of a psychedelic vibe to it.
I brought up that it's kind of like a jam session album. Like it.
Okay.
It just feels like they just kind of sat down and just, I don't know, like, you know, they were a good batch of mushrooms and they were very happy feeling.
Well, that's a good point.
All right, man, let's go. Except they were with English accents.
All right, mate.
I'm feeling kind of tripped out right now. You want to write a song?
Let's write a
Get
song.
Get the bongos out. Let's do this.
Let's write a song about taking something like Prozac. Which I really like that song, and the lyrics are fucking intense, man. Let me out when he does that scream. Oh, so good. I think it's their most in a lot of ways. I think it was to that point their most accessible album. If you throw out Nighttime and the synth pop albums, if you throw out Nighttime and I don't really think Brighter is super approachable. I just think this one has a lot of songs like Lanterns, like Pilgrimage. I like that tune, man. I love this album. Lanterns is a real positive sounding song. Prozac people, lyrics are insanely on point, moody, brooding, but cool as hell. Democracy. I love that song. Democracy. Sorry, democracy is changing. I love that fucking chorus, man.
It is pretty catchy. But
Savage Freedom, this Savage Freedom, dude. I think you need to. I'm just gonna say it.
This is what I know.
I know you know the album, but go back to it a little bit. Check it out again.
I don't know, like the muddy production, and I don't know, like when you say accessibility, I think Pandemonium was definitely very accessible. But again, they got the mix right. And I think there was just more like energy behind the songs. Like this is, I don't know,
it feels like a more lazy.
Yeah,
it feels like a lazy album. You're right. I like it. There's something about that speaks to me, but I'm not denigrating or disagreeing with any of your arguments. I agree with most of what you said.
I think it's where it sits in the discography too. Like
it might be that,
like some very hostile, very angry shit with Extremities, and then Pandemonium just kind of opened the floodgates of a lot of different ideas. And then we got this one.
They pulled back. There's no doubt.
Yeah, I didn't hear that.
Well, there's less jammy songs on here. I think Aeon is great tune, man. Aeon,
Yeah, that
I
is a good
love
song.
that song. Intellect, the very beginning of Intellect sounds like fucking Voivod. Now, of course, Voivod was around at that point, but that turns into a chugging, tedious track. That song, unfortunately, I don't like that song very much. The very beginning sounds like Medicine Wheel is kind of cool. That starts with the Indian flute. So yeah, we're getting all metaphysical here and kind of new agey. And I would call this their new age album. See what I
Yeah.
mean? And you're
Oh,
not digging that.
just fucking Killing Joke sitting around and fucking moo-moos passing the peace pipe. Remember when we were angry at the government? That was so wrong. No, we're still angry. No,
Remember,
smoke more of the peace pipe. You'll shit out. Mellow.
hey, mate, remember when we hated everyone, but now we're just kind of in love?
Yeah, I just want to give like strangers big hugs, you know. Give them a big squeeze.
There's another song on here I really fucking dig. Absent Friend just sounds massive.
I do
that
like
song.
That song
sounds fucking massive, man. Love it. Yeah, so I mean, there is some songs though, like for Medicine Wheel, repetitive lyrics that get kind of samey, and it's like jazz can be faulted for that occasion when he gets into a specific phrase he wants to repeat. It's like Iron Maiden choruses, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Again, for me, editing for me would have been a good idea with this album. I think there's a one or two tracks that could have been better. Another Bloody Election, which I swear they did a video for that, but I don't know if it was a single. Why am I thinking that was a single, but it wasn't?
No, when I was looking up stuff, like that seemed to be the most bitched about track. Like,
yeah, I don't particularly like that song.
It's a rant.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Okay. So now we're coming to probably one of your favorites, if not your favorite, and one that I do not own, sadly.
Yeah, this is my only flex because you have signed shit.
Yeah, this came out July 28th, 2003 on Zuma Recordings. So rip into it, buddy.
Zuma Recordings, Epic, and Red Ink, which I believe was like a small, like heavier label for Epic at that point. This is the one with Dave Grohl on it. He takes over on drums. They actually, like ended up meeting up with him. Of course, shot the shit about all the past stuff, and they were talking about like, hey, we were looking about getting a bunch of drummers on this project.
Right.
Different ones for different songs, and they played him. I don't know what they played him, but he said, "Dude, I'll do the whole fucking thing. I absolutely love this." And this is one of my.
I believe it was Paul Raven that ran into Grohl in L.A. or something, and that was kind of the entree to, hey man, I'm a huge fan of you guys. You got to tell Jazz, you guys ever need anything, that kind of thing.
Dude, this album flat out whoops ass. This is so guitar centric too. Like a lot of the keys are very subtle, like very subtle little blips and sweeps. The guitars on here are some of the crunchiest they've had, and Jordy just kills it on here. These are some of my favorite riffs that he wrote because he just took a very metal direction. Like I'd say this is maybe like the closest to a full-on metal album they have.
I agree.
Dave Grohl fucking kills it on drums. This is one of my favorite drum performances from him, and I absolutely love the one he did with Queens of the Stone Age. But there's some really awesome rhythms on here. Did the opening track, Death and Resurrection Show. Dude, I love that, like sort of like Middle Eastern little bounce to it. It's just a cool song. Jazz and his vocals on Total Invasion and fucking is it Dark Forces?
Asteroid.
Oh, the whispers, those creepy.
The creepy, the gargle
cancerous
glass.
Demon whispers. What in the fuck? They're horrifying, but they're awesome.
Which was new. That was new though. He hadn't done that before.
Dude, this was the second album I ever got, and when I heard him do that, I was like, Jesus Christ, man, what the fuck? But dude, the chorus on Total Invasion is absolutely amazing. Asteroid is a fucking kick in the dick. I love that song. I jam it all the fucking time. Blood in Your Hands, dude. Dark Forces, great fucking chorus. Oh man, dude. love this entire album. Even the re-recording of War Dance, they did a great job on that too. This is probably the heaviest album. Like if you're the metalhead, that's looking for a place to really get in on Killing Joke and you want something that is more in that wheelhouse, I would say this is probably the album. And it's fucking awesome. This is one of my favorites. I don't know. Like again, 1A, 1B.
That's a great entry point, no doubt. And oddly, one of the very last ones I ever heard, even though it was out for several years. It just, I missed that one because when it came out, it disappeared and was out of print for quite a long while. And I was unable to find it. And when I started into my Killing Joke, I'm in fully, I just didn't have 3 or 4 albums. I wanted the whole catalog. I went hunting for that one. You could not find it. This is 2011, 2010, 2012. You couldn't find it. You couldn't find it on vinyl. You couldn't find it on CD. I'm being serious. Like I would find it on eBay, and people would have it as his first CD. They'd have it for $75, $100, and I'm like, man, I'm just not fucking paying for that for one CD. I'm just not doing it. Even though it's the one I need. It's the one I need to finish my thing. Now, I have not looked since, which is weird. I should have, but I have not looked since we started working on this last week as doing this. I didn't go dig around to see if it's more readily available, but I think it is. I think I saw it's more readily available.
You need it.
It's absolutely.
So fucking good. Like it's
absolutely.
Like again, 1A, 1B, 1C. Like it's one of my favorite albums.
Real quick, had a couple quick comments here. Oh, yeah. Well, of course it needs more cowbell, Rick. I mean, of course. Oh, you guys are talking about the Tool stuff? Yeah. Eli's in. He says he likes Democracy. Eli, I like Democracy a lot, so fuck Nick. Whatever. Zoo with Nature, Monster Voodoo, Green. Oh, I remember Green Jello, man. That's San Francisco band, I think. Don't know Voodoo Machine. And with Nature, don't know those. What do we got? Nick is literally trashing this album. Oh, say you're sorry to Eli. He's a little bit. He's crying, man. Don't make him feel that bad,
big
Nick.
Fucking bully. God.
you just think you're tough fucking dick dust, don't you, buddy?
I mean, I am the toughest dick dust around.
That sound that I never loved it. Okay. Yeah, I got you. All right. Ryan, what's up, buddy?
Yeah, for a little bit. Mm-hmm. Distribution.
Big transitional on the one that sent them to Drift. Yeah, I would imagine. It probably did, but it was also the album that I think they were hoping would score them a bunch of hits, which it didn't because 86 things were kind of changing. What do we got? Basement from KJ. New Age. No. Well, it's not real New Age yet. That's a little bit of nuance there.
It's a strange album.
Jazz went to Tibet. Yeah, he did. That's right. No, actually, for Democracy, he went to Sedona, Arizona, and got really immersed in Indian culture. That's why you hear the medicine wheel, the Indian flute, and all that stuff. So I think it's more that than anything. Yeah, peyote probably for sure. What's this? Ambient. That sounds interesting. What is it? That's why I asked about a month. Don't know that.
I don't know one either. Oh, dude, yeah. Songs for Death. Yeah. I love that drum performance.
What else we have here? Anything else? Chuck Meyer. Anyone else want to hear Jeff and Nick to finish the show in British? Nah. I used to really do good British accents, but man, I'm out of practice. It's like
it'd be tough.
What you got there? It's a piston engine. What you gonna do with it? I'm gonna cook it. What's the blood? The bloody cat is choking on lupins.
I mean, I don't know, like Irish. I mean, I don't know, Irish or like Scottish. I don't know. Like after a while, it becomes exhausting. I used to do a lot of prank calls.
It is. It's hard. It's hard to stay on task.
Yeah.
And especially if you're fucking dumb like I am.
Fuck's sake, man.
Shit out. Well, fuck's sake. Yeah. Now that sounded more Scottish.
Yeah, well, I kind of just go for the pikey thing from Snatch.
All right, so real quick, where were we at? Oh, we're on the Yellow
Self-titled
album.
too.
Okay, so this was co-produced with Andy Gill of Gang of Four fame. Dave Grohl on drums, as we mentioned. Original idea was, as Nick noted, was to have Danny Carey drum on it. They were also going to have. There are some demos apparently of John Dolomane from the System of a Down and Blabbermouth fame, where he's always pissing every liberal off. Yeah, he apparently was going to draw. I heard there are some demos with him on them. But Grohl heard of the songs and was like, give it all to me. I want it all. There's a lot of anti-American policy and political stuff in these lyrics, big time, as usual, which is okay because, we should be. We need somebody like Jazz pointing that kind of stuff out. They only used Paul Raven on one track. And I didn't even look and see what track it is. Did they say in the
Hold on here,
liner notes? I don't even know. There was initially no intention to tour this album, but eventually they did, and they used Ted Parsons from Prong and Godflesh to play drums for him, which is an interesting choice. You don't hear him brought up a lot, but he's a great drummer.
It was the re-recording of War Dance. I think that was the one that Paul Raven did.
Oh, okay, all right. So for me, real quick, track rundown. Brilliant blinder opener, Death and Resurrection show. So fucking good. Total Invasion. Nasty guitar tone on this song, man. So nasty. Jazz is crazed. All political all the time. Yeah, right.
God, dude, it's creepy.
Asteroid. Killer song. Every time I see that live, it is the track that gets everybody fucking fired. He does da 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 da. Asteroid, and everybody goes fucking insane in the crowd, dude. Last time I was there, I literally shredded my vocal cords. I couldn't talk afterwards, which I know for me is not a good thing, right? Implant, Jazz off the hook, insane vocals on this one, man. Yep. Intense atmosphere, heavy track. Blood on Your Hands, moody building track, solid. Seeing Red, I love that song, man. I love Seeing Red. Killer. It's like the ballad on the album in a weird way, but it's visceral and intense and just only way Killing Joke can do it.
Yeah.
Dark Forces, another good one. Anthemic chorus. Intense, dark, and brooding. House of Pain Built, another killer ending track, very intense. This album there's really no bad songs on it, and here you go. Another No Disguise, I think, from Rate Your Music says, if it were possible to harness Jazz's anger at the world, you wouldn't need to search for alternative forms of energy.
No.
That's a great way of putting it.
I think it might do the Planet In.
There's also a lyric, I think it's in which song is it? Can write it down like a dumbass. I think it's in
Loose Cannon or You'll Never Get
Total
to Me.
Total Invasion, I think it is. There's a line that says, they're dropping bombs again in your name. In other words, all these fucking governments to go out and, like Putin, he's doing this for the Russian people, mind you. Putin is doing this for the Russian people. He's not doing it for himself.
Totally.
Not at all. He's not doing it. He's not doing it at all because he feels like he's losing his position on the. Yeah.
There we go.
There you go.
Yeah. I mean,
but they go out and they fucking kill and murder. We went to Iraq and killed and murdered all the names of weapons of mass destruction that weren't there. And we killed millions of people. And we do it for you. Just remember that, Nick. Our government does that stuff for you, man, so that
we'll
you can
clothe your women in our Western ways.
They do that so you can have your YouTube channel, Nick. I mean, come on, man.
Hey, wait, if Killing Joke do it, or does the country do it? I mean, if Killing Joke's doing it, then yes, thank you.
We're all on board, right? All right, let's move on to Hosannas from the Basement of Hell, April 3rd, 2006.
What a weird fucking album cover. I love it.
Yeah, it's a Russian
Yep.
painter, I believe, right?
Absurd. I guess he likes like the Victorian stuff. Is like, nah, put pterodactyl faces on them.
Yeah, and it works great. I love that album cover. It's probably my favorite album cover of
honestly,
theirs.
yeah, I think it's definitely up there. Plus, even down to the webbed hands and shit, like it's weird.
Yeah, but it's trippy, but it's cool.
This is a little bit more like kind of that washed out sound. Like it's less compressed than the self-titled one from 2003. And I don't know, like this is just kind of a dark, brooding album. And this is also the last one with Paul Raven coming back on bass too.
Right.
Less of a metal tone, more of that kind of gritty, like almost kind of like the tone on Extremities. Like not necessarily metal, but very harsh and abrasive. Let's see.
No, I think it sounds pretty metal, but I agree with you. This sounds a lot more like Extremities than the last two albums by far. By far.
Dark, twisted album. A bit long. This is where the length comes in. Like it gets a little repetitious. Especially Lightbringer. Man.
Oh man. I like that song, but it's 4 minutes too long.
Yeah, dude, it just goes on too long. But I mean, there's some really good songs. Invocation, the title track, fucking slays. Like that is one of my favorite tracks on this entire album. Walking with Gods, Judas Goat. Like you can kind of like feel it in the song titles. This is just kind of a dark, brooding, kind of just I don't know, almost evil album. I don't know. It kind of feels a little evil and sinister and dark.
Yeah.
But I just think it is a bit long, and there's a few throwbacks to like kind of that Pandemonium style, like in Invocation. There's a little bit more orchestration in it, but again, I think this is where the editing thing really started to get to me. I was like, man, you could just trim a little bit off there because you got this nice center cut sirloin, and it's just got a wall of fucking gristle and fat around it. Like, just get rid of that. Doesn't need to be there.
You and I have the same.
Pretty good.
We have the same opinion on that album. There's too much fat on it. And here's the other. If you open up the. There's the interior of it. Just fucking bizarre, man. Like they had all this kind of okay art. None of their albums are. Well, a couple of them are terrible, but I mean, a couple that are pretty cool. Like the, Dr. Caligari thing is kind of cool because you'd have to really know what that was. I did not know that. Pandemonium is really cool because it's very tied in with astrology and numerology and all that stuff. But you got weird ones like Outside the Gate's pretty lame, and even for my favorite album and Nighttime, they're not the greatest album covers. They're not, they're not doing Roger Dean artwork or anything. And then they pull up this fucking monstrously cool album cover. But you're like, what the hell is it? It's like, that's weird. That came out of left field. But this one, I hadn't really given this one a lot of time in a long time. I remember when I got it thinking, man, this is fucking balls heavy, but it just feels like it goes on forever. And this came out on Cooking Vinyl on 06. Let me see, did they have a producer on this? Nope, self-produced. Last album to feature Paul Raven, as we said, who died in October of 07 of a heart attack. If you read a little bit about Paul, I think he liked, I could be wrong here, but I think he liked the cocaine a little bit.
Yep. Yeah.
And he also drank. And he drank a lot. He was a pretty heavy drinker, but I'm not denigrating him. I'm just pointing out some of the stuff. The title refers to the studio in the Czech Republic that they used to record it in, which contained tons of vintage 70s equipment. Let's see, what's this say here? Wow. Oh, Benny Calvert played drums. I don't know who he is. Never heard of him before. Someone likened this album to the scene where Slim Pickens is riding the A-bomb in Dr. Strangelove. And I agree with that completely. It's blowout, wild-eyed. Here's what he says. This is, again, from Paul Brannigan and Keith Bergman. One was Kerrang and one was on Rate Your Music, I think. Or it says, This album is like listening, or is like watching Slim Pickens ride the A-bomb in Doctor Strangelove. It's blowout, wild-eyed, freak out to the end. Killing Joke's wild, righteous frenzy still feels horribly necessary.
Yeah.
I like that comment. And Tribal Antidote kicks off with a rager. Love that song. Hosannas from the Basement of Hell. Could be Asteroid. It has a similar build-up to Asteroid.
Yeah. No, the big synths, though.
But
big fucking
but it's
synths.
Yeah, but it's better in a weird way. Invocation, grand, hypnotic, long, but super cool. Implosion. I don't know what I wrote about Implosion. Can't find it. With all the middle. Oh, that's the one with all the. Is that the one with all the Middle Eastern stuff going on? Or is that Invocation?
Invocation. That's Invocation.
You're right. I got something written about Implosion here. What's it say? Oh, Solid. Okay, never mind. Solid track. Majestic. Killer Chromatic, Ripper. I like Majestic a lot. Super heavy. Walking with God, lurching, pulsing, ugly, industrial plotting. Lightbringer. Yeah. Lightbringer's a super long one, right?
Yep. It's too long.
Similar riff that you've heard in KJ before. Snarling synths and bass groove, which is cool, but it's way too long. The beats on here remind me. You know what? I was thinking about this. Listen, a lot of the beats on this album remind me a lot of Sisters of Mercy Vision thing. Did you ever hear that song?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. There's a lot of the beats in this album sound very similar to that. And I mean repetitively so, unfortunately. Very mechanical and repetitive, but hypnotic. Do I have anything else on this one here? One of KJ's... Oh, and I said this before, but I'll say it again because I wrote it down here. One of KJ's best attributes is also one of the worst at times. Repetition, taking a riff that's cool, but beating it to death. They can do and do it well often, but it's really the dynamics in these songs that save or doom them. So some of these repetitive riff songs where things are just going and going and going, and it's the same riff. It's the dynamics of the song that really save the song from. I'm going to take my earbuds out, dude. You there?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, I'm going to turn off that. Judas Goat. Okay, but heard this song before. Gratitude, plotting. Album gets a little long in the tooth by the end. Self-producing has its limitations, and this is what it is for me. Killing Joke sometimes doesn't know when to end a good song. It's a great album for guitar tones, and it is. The guitar tones on this album are fucking fat and lethal, but it's just too long. So that's where I was at with that one. How about where do we go from here? 9/27/2010. Nick?
Oh, we go to, another one of my favorites. Hold on, I'm going to move that around there. Ugh. Absolute Dissent.
Right.
I love this album. I think, honestly, if you want to hear pretty much everything that Killing Joke is good at, you give him this album. Because this is kind of, almost like kind of a retrospective of their career, namely because all of them are back together. And
that's true. They got everybody back together.
Funeral.
Yep, Paul Raven's funeral brought them all back together, and he decided to do another album. And I think one of the things that maybe you just said it, I'll say it a little differently. There's a lot of variety on this album.
Yes.
You don't have on, I'll be honest with you, on Pandemonium, the last 4 albums, Democracy is probably the most varied for me. But the fact of the matter is, there's a lot of sameness on Hosannas, and even on Pandemonium to an extent, there's a little bit, and definitely on Extremities. I hear a lot of same riffs and samey riffs, and it's what they do with them to create different. You don't hear that on this album. It's very varied and very different.
I think in those albums, they were going for a particular gear, and that gear maybe was a little bit limited. This one, they kind of just open it up and was like, let's just kind of go through all the stuff that we like and all the stuff that, it's been a huge part of our entire sound. And man, did they fucking do it on here. And it's absolutely amazing. This is definitely one of my favorite Killing Joke albums. I jammed the living shit out of it when I got it. I still jam the living shit out of it. The Great Cull. Yeah. Fuck. Fuck, dude. That is one of their heaviest
which
songs,
song?
and it's so biting. That riff will be in your head for fucking days.
Which song again?
Oh, The Great Call.
Oh, so good.
Dude,
So
it's
good.
like it's one of my favorite Killing Joke songs, period. But
Yep.
on the same album, you have European Superstate, which is a kind of techno-y pop song, and
It's a thin synth pop song.
it's so goddamn catchy. It is one of
That's
the catchiest
amazing.
songs on here.
It's amazing. Every time they play that live, dude, everybody goes nuts.
Dude, The World Is Hell is just a vicious, slow, kind of industrial metal song. And again, I like the fact that they explored a lot of different stuff. Like there's like the classic post-punk sound. They have like, again, a synthy pop song, flat out metal songs, more atmospheric stuff. Like again, that they just kind of captured everything that they were already good at and just made a massive album as older guys that have been seasoned musicians for a long time, and they just did a magnificent fucking job. Absolutely love this album. This is essential listening in terms of Killing Joke, and it came this late in their career.
I agree, man. You nailed it. That is absolutely, like I said a while back, that's a great starting point for Killing Joke. If you want to hear a little bit of everything that they can do, that album does it. It does it almost perfectly. There's really no bad tracks on it. It starts out with Absolute Dissent, which is just a ripper, and it's just a great fucking song. You got The Great Call, which is probably the heaviest track on the album, but it's just so damn good. Fresh Fever from the Skies is good. European Superstate's awesome. In Extremities is almost, if it wasn't Killing Joke, it might be a pop hit somewhere.
Yeah.
But it's In Extremities.
I know Great
Raven
Call
King,
was.
man.
Oh,
the
dude.
Raven King. Good fucking Lord, that song is so goddamn beautiful. It's about.
Yep.
Well, Jazz says it's not about Paul, but Jazz says it's not about Paul Raven. It's about the things that he hated in life, and it's about his philosophies on life, and it's not actually about Paul Raven himself, but about what the man stood for, and it is beautiful, man. It's What else do we got? What else do we have here?
I like that one.
Oh, Ghost of Ladbroke Grove.
Yep.
It's a reggae track. It's a dub track, but it's fucking killer.
Yeah, they pretty much nailed everything they were going for in here. And like I said, maybe just, seeing everyone back together, like that just kind of rekindled something. And I mean, meeting at Paul Raven's funeral, like that's where they met up and actually talked about it. And
I think one of the things that they didn't do on this, or that they changed, is a lot more concise track lengths.
Yep.
All the songs, none of these songs feel too long.
There's not a single one over 7 minutes.
None of them feel like they're overstaying their welcome at all. And it's again, if you're getting into, or you want a starting point for Killing Joke and you don't really know their material, I would honestly say this might be the best album to jump into first. It's that good. And it, like I said, it hits all the magic spots of Killing Joke. And then you get something like European Superstate, which
I love that song.
They hadn't really done anything quite like that before, but it's a fucking awesome song. It's so good, man. And
it's a civilizing force
political.
that demands respect.
Exactly, but it's fucking super political, but yet it's a dance floor number. You could go to a club and hear that and be like, what the fuck is this? This is great. So probably top 3, top 4.
Man, this would be a hard one to fucking legit rank. I didn't write rankings beside any of these just because this is already difficult.
Well, maybe as a last thing when we tie up, we'll try to do it. I'm sure it'll change the next time we talk. Just for shits and giggles. Okay, so we're let me just double check. I didn't have any other major. I don't think I did. Oh, yeah. Like I said, this is off the album. I tell people unfamiliar with the band to start with, mainly because it's not repetitious like some of the other stuff like Pandemonium and Extremities, and there's what I really noticed about this album over a lot of their other albums, maybe other than perhaps Nighttime and Brighter, is they're back into a lot of verse chorus songs. Yeah. They just work really, really good, even though they do the other thing, the grinding riff thing, really well. This album it just holds your attention the whole way through.
It's great driving music. I that was my favorite place to listen to it. Just in the car, just going through. I was like, this is perfect. I'm in the zone right now.
Dude, I could listen to European Superstate endlessly while I'm driving. It's a driving song.
I have like literally listened to it and then like one more time. I ain't done yet.
Exactly.
I've done the same thing with the Great Call though.
Yeah.
The Great Call is like, all right, if I get a speeding ticket, I don't mind right now. Just fuck it.
All right. Fun. So let's hit the next one here. We got April 2nd, 2012.
2012.
And we've got 2012 is the name of the album, MMXXI.
I dig this album cover too. This is a really good one. This one is, I almost went kind of like a companion piece to Absolute Dissent. It kind of has that same vibe, except it's like a little bit lighter and maybe like a little bit happier in terms of like an overall feel, where Absolute Dissent explored a lot of different styles and moods. This one still explores more styles, but the mood on it is, I don't know, happier. And it's weird because I believe I read that, this was about essentially 2012, all the conspiracy theories.
Yeah, when the world was going to end. Yeah.
Right. But he said, I think Jazz says like, yeah, it's a party. It's the end of the world party and we're going to have fun. Yeah. So let's have a party.
Yeah.
It's a really solid album. Dude, the opening track, Pole Shift, is fucking amazing. I love the synth build up. It's a little bit more lush this time too. Like the synths are a little bit more prominent. Pole Shift, the opening track.
Pole Shift, yeah.
Fucking love it.
Yeah. Dude, and that's the first time in a while they've led off an album with that's the longest track, and it's almost 9 minutes, and it's brooding and kind of cinematic in a weird way.
I dig it. And it's proof they can write a long song without being unbearably repetitious. Like this one actually has like a really good flow to it. Like there's cool movements to it. Really just an interesting album. Like I go to Absolute Dissent a little bit more than this one, but coming back to this one, I was like, man, this is just fun to listen to. Colony Collapse is amazing. Rapture, Trance. It's a really, I don't know, like an interesting album, and it's catchy as hell. The vocal hooks, I think, especially on here, are really, really fucking good. And I think that's, again, carryover from Absolute Dissent. Awesome album. I really dig it. I think it's underrated.
I'm right there with you. This is 1 and 1A with Absolute Dissent, and sometimes I like it a little better. There are certain tracks on this album. There are certain tracks on here that, like on Absolute Dissent, are just standout tracks. For example, the one thing I think that Jazz's vocals just sound even better on this album than they even did over the last album. And it's like, man, how is this guy when he's shredding his vocals live sometimes? And I've seen him live, and I'm like, how's he doing that to his voice? And yet you hear him do something like In Cythera or European Superstate where he's singing. You're like, this guy's voice is so fucking good, man. And live, it's like that. It's not fake. There's nothing faked about KJ live. That when they're live, they're not fucking running. The backing tracks they may be running are simply synth pulses and stuff like that. There's nothing else. There's no backing vocals. There's no triggered drums. It's all fucking live. That is a live band. That's about as live a band as you're gonna get live ever. And Jazz's voice just blows me away, man. Let's see, what do I got here? Pole Shift, brooding, long, but
love it.
Killer opener. And again, I say as good or better than Absolute Dissent. It's right there, dude. It's right there. And I know you think it too. You're struggling, but I know you think it.
This one feels more uniform. Like there's one collective theme, whereas you could say Absolute Dissent's almost like their fucking fun mixtape. It's like, yeah, we got this song, this one, but it all gels together. This one is more uniform, but it's a fun uniform, and it's again oddly happy.
Yeah, it's very heavy.
Well, no, Happy.
FEMA camp.
Oh yeah, FEMA camp.
Oh, Happy. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, no, it does sound. Jazz definitely doesn't sound as angry on all the songs, but there's a couple that he does, like Colony Collapse and FEMA camp. He's really, it's like FEMA camp. FEMA camp. Down. Man, super catchy, heavy, thunderous, rapture, buzzing, driving, intense, somewhat repetitive. Colony Collapse. Love this song. That's one of my favorites. Super fucking heavy. What else do we got here? Yeah, Colony Collapse sounds super metal, but it's uplifting. Love Jordy's chord changes and arpeggiation on this. It's got such a great vocal, but it's super atmospheric. Corporate Elect was the single, I believe. Grinding, electric, propulsive, awesome. In Cythera, the European superstate-like song on this album.
It's good,
but it's a bit more of a ballad, and it's beautiful, man. It's gorgeous, and it's another driving song. It's like so good, man. And then my favorite song, Prime Mobile. Prime Mobile is fucking epic, dude. Love this track. Haunting, mystical, doomy. It's their doom track on the album. So fat and psychedelic at times. Glitch, militant and jackhammering riffs. Also has a weird, but has a weird standard rock feel to it, I guess is what I'm saying there. Trance, okay track, least favorite on the album. Hallows Eve, synthy, almost trancey, dancey track. Love it. Remember, the world was supposed to end in 2012. A lot of material on this album is tied to that thematically. It's the end of the world. Oh, this is another comment from a review from Kerrang. It's the end of the world as we know it. Wait. Oh, regarding this album, 2012. It's the end of the world as we know it. What a way to go.
Yeah. Fuck it. Put it on.
Yeah, man. I mean, I love this album. I saw him 3 times on this tour. I saw him once for this tour. Now again, see, because even though I came in at 94, I never saw them. I never even heard about them touring over here. I'm sure they did. I'm sure for Pandemonium and Democracy they did, but when or where, I have no idea. And their touring is not like a regular band tour.
Yeah.
They don't do the whole, let's put an album out and do 6 years of touring on it, or 2, Carcass, or you know what I mean? They didn't do that. I don't know where all the money comes from. I'll be honest with you. I mean, maybe they've got a good bit of money. Jazz doesn't even own a house. Did you know that?
No.
Jazz does not own a house. He fucking couch surfs a lot of his life. He's got kids and everything, but he's couch surfed a lot of his life. And he's just he's a migrant. He's a nomad. And so I know that Jordy lived right up the street from a buddy of mine in Detroit, and I think he still lives there in Detroit. That's what I think. I think Paul Ferguson lives over here, and I think he might be in New York. Youth is over in the UK because he has a studio. But I love this album, and on any given day, it could be this one, or it could be this one. This would be another good album to start newbies on. I don't think it would be a bad album for you to hear as a new fan to the band. It's that good. It's that quality, and it's varied again. Maybe not quite as varied as Absolute Dissent, but it's pretty close. So finally, you have 2 versions of this. I only have one. So why don't you show your? Don't you have 2 versions or one?
Yeah, that's.
Oh, I thought you got the.
I do. One. I just want to show out that I have both.
Oh, you do. Okay, so what's the difference between them, real quick?
Remastered, and this sounds so much better. Like, I think the original mix on Pylon was a bit murky, and it seemed muffled. Like, it didn't sound as loud as it should have been. This corrects all those issues, and I fucking love this album too. God, man.
I'm gonna have to get that one then.
Dude, this is the one to get. This right here. This is the way to go in terms of this album, because these songs more heavy. I think this is more like, again, a lot of industrial metal vibes on this one. Like, there's definitely some, catchier, lighter songs like Euphoria. But I mean, when you get down, like the first 3 songs, Autonomous Zone, Dawn of the Hive, which is a fucking ripper, and New
Killer
Cold
track.
War, one of the catchiest songs they've written here lately. Just sort of brooding, sort of hostility and extra like kind of punky energy on this. Like they this is the after the party and we're back to the real fucking world, and it's angry and it's ugly again, and they're letting you know. New Jerusalem, I love how that song builds.
Love that song.
Killer drum work, that gigantic fucking chorus. Like it comes
that
down on you like a
riff,
ton of bricks.
Yep. It's just a chugging killer riff, man.
I Am the Virus. And this album was so big, it's on 2 discs. So there's like, 10 tracks, and then there are another 5 on the other one. And it's worth listening to this entire thing, especially Apotheosis on the second track. The opener on there is vicious as hell, and Delete. Oh, dude, I kind of like this more vicious energy. Like it kind of took me back to Extremities a little bit, but with sort of that more polished songwriting on the last 2 albums preceded. So they kind of got that right balance. Great album.
Yeah, this one popped up on me out of nowhere. I was going through a lot of weird shit right around then. My ex-fiance and I split up in early 2015. My life was not very good, man. I was dealing with the very early stages of this disease I'm battling now, and on top of that, the woman that I thought I was going to spend the rest of my life with kind of fucking literally abandoned me out of nowhere. So I was in a bad place when I saw this in the record store. I'm like, wait, what? How did I miss that? Because I was always staying on top of their website, which they didn't really have much of a website back then. They had more of I think initially, these guys, one thing I will say about these guys is, from a merchandising standpoint, they could be doing so much better, man. They have very few shirts. Their website's pretty shitty, and I think it's because Jazz is kind of the leader of the band, and as goes Jazz, so do the rest of the guys. But Jazz doesn't seem all that fucking interested in. He wants to be a force musically, and he wants to be a force creatively, and he rails about finances to some degree. But at the same point in time, he doesn't seem to really give a fuck about becoming Iron Maiden as far as merchandising. You know what I mean? He just doesn't. Because for the longest time, I was looking for stuff, like swag. And I do have, I have this one that I got at the 2018 show, which because of me gaining so much fucking weight is really snug, way snugger than it should be. I have an Absolute Dissent tour shirt, and I have the one from 2012, which is not my favorite shirt of those. I kind of wished I wouldn't have bought that one because I don't really like it very much. But you can't really get much of their stuff. They have the one. They have a shirt for the album cover where the guy's doing the Nazi. The popes are walking, or the guys in the hoods are there with the guns, and I forget what that's a comp, but I can't remember the name of it. Can't remember the name of that. Do you have that one?
No, I don't have any Killing Joke shirts. Like none.
No, but I mean, do you have that comp?
Oh no, the only comps I have is this one I showed earlier.
Okay.
I just went for the studio.
But yeah, you can't really find any of their shit anywhere real easily. Like I said, I do have 3 shirts, but 2 of them I got at shows. Yeah, for this album here, man, I hadn't listened to it in a long time. And frankly, when it came out, because of all the shit I was going through, it kind of reminded me of some bad times at that point. So I hadn't listened to it probably in about 3 years. Popped it in, man. It's damn near as solid as those last 2. It's a little more vitriolic and angry again. It's like Jazz is getting back to being pissed off about the world again. And it's a little more consistently heavy, I would say, overall. Autonomous Zone's great. Dawn of the Hive is fucking killer. I really like Euphoria, man. I really like that chorus.
It's a good track.
Yeah, it's let me see what I say. It calls it Jazz calls this their Cold War album. It was co-produced by Tom Dalgetty. It's on Spine Farm. Came out September 23rd, 15. This is the album I've spent the least amount of time with of all of the catalog. with the exception of maybe the first three or the second, third, and fourth album, and probably Outside the Gate. So this one's probably of all the more current albums, it's the one I spent the least amount of time with. It has a similar vibe to the last two, except the industrial metal vibe seems a lot more prominent in terms of there isn't quite the variety that you had on the last two albums. I even hear Frontline Assembly slash Pantera riffs in one song, I swear. Can't remember which song it was. New Cold War, Building, Brooding track. Dig this one. Lots of almost prog metal riffs on this buried in the mix. Single, very absolute Dissent-ish for Euphoria, but great. Has a killer tune, very uplifting. Very uplifting. That's probably the one song on the album that's very positive and like reinforcing. And again, you said the one that's really jumped out at me was
New Jerusalem.
New Jerusalem, man. That is such a kick-ass tune. War on Freedom's good. Big Buzz is a little bit more almost alternative sounding. Delete's really good. I am the virus. I am the virus. I am the virus. I am the virus. Oh, that's so good.
Heavy.
I got to be honest with you. I did not listen to CD2, so I'm going to have to go do that.
Oh, dude. Those are awesome songs. The Panopticon.
Now, on the reissue, does it have all the songs?
Oh, yeah. No, it's got both discs.
Okay. I'm going to grab that then. When did that come out? When did that come out? Like 18 or 19 or something?
2021. Last year. It was early last year.
I'm wondering why they went and did that. They must not have been happy with the sound of it or something.
I thought the original sounded just kind of muffled. Like, I loved all the songs. I was like, man, this production does not like jump out like the songs do. And yeah, when I saw they reissued it, I just flat out fucking picked it up right there. I was like, no, I already own this, but if they did a great job in terms of remastering this and kind of just beefing up these songs a bit, it's immediately noticeable. Like, as soon as you hear the guitar tone on that remaster, dude, it sounds so crisp and fucking punchy, dude.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna grab it then. I'm gonna hunt when I get off here. I'm gonna hunt for that and the yellow, the 03 album. Let's talk about a couple of quick things here because we pretty much wrapped up the discography.
Tell you what, you start. I'm gonna go pee and have a smoke because I've been holding the pee for a while.
There's a lot of live stuff going on here with Killing Joke. They got a shit ton of live albums. I have a handful of them because I'm not a huge live guy. But this one here is called the Duende Spanish Sessions. And frankly, I got to be honest with you. I haven't listened to this in so fucking long. I'm trying to see what this was all about. I don't even remember. This was done. You know, I should have listened to this one. I don't remember what the deal is with this. I think it's live sessions. And it has the original band together. Now, I don't know if this came out. This came out on Candlelight in 2009. So it might have just been them re-recording some of their songs to gain the rights to them. But this has Requiem, The Wait, Tomorrow's World, Bloodsport, Psych. Oh, actually, it's the first album. Yeah, it's the first album. Then it's got Are You Receiving, Primitive, Tension, Whiteout, Pandemonium, 80s, Love Like Blood. I got to listen to this and see what the hell this is. I don't remember. There was a 4-disc version of this that came out called The Gathering 2008. I have parts 1 and 2. They're both 2 discs. They're different live. This is on Candlelight again. And I think this is a way for them to keep funds kind of, to and I have one of these. It's one of those double discs that everything falls the hell out of because they're broken. Pisses me off. I got them that way. But there is a 4-disc box set of this. And I almost bought it a couple different times, but the recording quality, it's not bad. It's good. This band live, if you can see them do it, they're fucking vicious live. They're so damn good. But again, The Gathering, there is a 4-disc set. I just have the 2 discs. And finally, one more here. This is another Gathering, the 25th. It's a live show, 2005. Yeah, it's got Communion, War Dance, Song and Dance, Primitive, Total Invasion, Bloodsport, Requiem, Asteroid, The Wait, Psych, The Panties Are Coming, Sun Goes Down, Are You Receiving, Love Like Blood, and Pandemonium. I want desperately to own, and this one has Paul Raven on it. I want desperately to own every bit of, and Ben Calvert on drums, not, so there's Ben Calvert if anybody want to know who he was. I kind of want to own everything, but I don't really need to own all these live albums. So I don't know. Last thing we're going to talk about is this 3 CD Killing Joke the Singles collection. As I said, there was an announcement on their Facebook page, I believe in like 2012 maybe, or 13 maybe. 13. And they were putting this out. Spine Farm was putting out this collection of, compilation, and there was going to be 3 versions of it. There was going to be a 2-disc version, a 3-disc version, which was limited, and a 32 CD edition, which was a box set. And each one of the singles that they've had throughout their career would be represented on a like an A side and a B side CD. And that one you had to prepay for it. And if I recall correctly, the CD, the box set itself was like $390 or $400, which was mind blowing to me. And even though I was making good money, I was supporting a $1,400 a month mortgage payment on a condo myself. Had nobody living with me, and I had $1,200 worth of bills a month. So I was blasting a lot of cash out. I was making really good cash, but I was tight. And so dropping $400 on a box set, I struggle with it. I kick myself in the ass more than any other thing I missed out on. I would love to have that 32 CD box set, because you can't fucking find it anywhere for under $1,500 now, usually, or at least $1,000 or more. And you just don't find them. The people that own them aren't getting rid of them. Although having 32 CDs to put in to listen to would be problematic. Anyways, so this album, this is the 3 CD set, which is tough to find. On Discogs, it's going for, the cheapest one I found was like $49 or something like that. I've never even looked for one on eBay. I'm sure it's going to be more. But the singles collection, 79 to 2012. CD1 is 79 to 88, and it has Nervous System, War Dance, Requiem, Follow the Leaders, Empire Song, Chop Chop, Birds of a Feather, which is not a song that was released, I believe. Let's All Go to the Fire Dances, Me or You, 80s, A New Day, Love Like Blood, Love Like Blood, Kings and Queen, Adoration, Sanity, America, My Love of This Land. So it's all the way up through, it's from the debut album all the way through Outside the Gate. Then on CD2, it's 90 to 2012. You get the Beautiful Dead, the flexi disc version, which was not previously issued. Money's Not Our God, Exorcism Live in the King's Chamber, Cairo, 1993, August 93. Millennium Cybersank edit, Pandemonium Cybersank edit, Jana, Democracy album mix, Loose Cannon, Seeing Red edit, Hosannas from the Basement of Hell radio edit, In Excelsis Fresh Fever from the Sky Record Store Day exclusive, European Superstate edit, Ghost of Vlad Brook Late dub edit, In Cythera edit, and Corporate Elect. So that takes you all the way up through 2012. What I got this for, and why I won't give it up, is the rarities. You've got Drug, which is from the Mortal Kombat soundtrack. You've got Hollywood Babylon, longer intro mix, unreleased version of track from the Showgirls soundtrack, original soundtrack. Our Last Goodbye from the Free the West Memphis 3 album. If you remember the Memphis 3, there were those 3 kids down in Memphis that allegedly the satanic panic thing, and Eddie Vedder got involved. I think Metallica got involved. Who else? There was a bunch of other people, Nick. Do you remember who else was involved in that?
I have that compilation.
Do you?
Yeah.
Oh, I'd like to have that shit.
It was good, dude. They got fucking... Dude,
what's
Chuck
the name
D
of that?
was on
What's
that?
the name of the movie? What's the name of the movie that they made about that? Something Paradise?
I can't
Burning
remember.
in Paradise? Or...
I remember seeing the documentary.
Yeah, it's a documentary, right?
Oh yeah, I don't remember the
something
name
Paradise,
of it.
but anyways, they were on the soundtrack for that, which is crazy. Sixth Sun Rough Mix, unreleased track from Absolute Dissent. Time Wave, unreleased recording from Absolute Dissent. Feast of Fools Rough Mix, unreleased track from Absolute Dissent. Xenon, which is extra track on Loose Cannon, the DVD single. Xenon, I think, was from Killing Joke 2003, I believe. Four Stations of the Sun, unreleased track from Democracy. Money's Not Our God, radio edit, and Pandemonium full-length version Aotiera mix. So that's why I've got this one and why I bought it, because I was able to get the 3 CD version, which you can still get, but you're going to pay for this one. It's not easy to, you're not just going to, if you go buy this from Amazon, you're getting the 2 CD version. You got to hunt for this one. So, and it's, I don't love digipacks, but I love the artwork. And I saw him for this tour. I saw him I started to talk about that. I saw him once for the 2018 tour. I saw him once for this tour. I saw him 3 times for 2012 and 1 time for Absolute Dissent. And I just real quick on that front, the 2012 tour was great, man. Every show was great, and the last one was super fucking cool because, well, I went to Irving Plaza in New York with Serge actually to see him on the 2012 tour, and my kid, which was really, really cool. So we we had dinner in Manhattan, and went into the show. It was just badass. And then the showdown in Maryland, which was the last one that I saw, which was for the 40th anniversary. That was my favorite, obviously, because I got to meet Jazz and I got to meet Big Paul. Big Paul briefly. We didn't really speak long time. Nice dude, big tall. That's why they call him Big Paul. And Jazz, I see him and I'm like, Jazz, can you sign my, my CD jackets? And he's like, sure, mate. He's like, so is that your boy? Now, I was there with my son at the time. And this was actually his second or third time seeing him, at least second anyways, because he loves Killing Joke. And crazily, the first thing Jazz really says to me is, he's like, is that your boy? And I'm like, yeah, he is. This is the second time seeing him. And he goes, do you smoke pot with your boy? That's the first question he asked me. Do you smoke weed with your boy? I'm like, we haven't done that as yet. And at that point in time, yeah, I had just gotten a medical marijuana back in 2017, but I stopped using it. So it was kind of funny. It was like, yeah, I could have done that, but I'm not one of those parents that's like, hey man, let's get high with my kids. But my kid really enjoyed it in meetings, Jazz. And I will say this, that if you have, Nick, you have to see them. Like,
I know.
You have to see them. There's no, well, yeah, but Incantation's playing that night. And yeah, but
no. I mean,
no.
That's one, like, if they're touring, I'm going to go see them, like, regardless. Like,
well, we should mention that they are dropping March 25th, I believe.
Yep.
An EP. Now, I have not heard whether there's going to be physical product. I know it's going to be digital.
There will.
Is there a physical product?
I looked on the site. There will be. I believe there will be a CD version, which yay for me.
Right.
Yeah, Lords of Chaos. I jammed the lead-off single. It sounds like Killing Joke. It sounds like a kind of a, I don't know, kind of similar to what they were doing on Pylon. Which, hey, more of that, please. Thank you. Yeah,
I have not checked it out.
It's only,
I hate to admit, I've not checked it out yet.
It's only like, I think there's only like a couple of originals on it, and then maybe like a couple of live
There's
tracks.
2 songs, and then there's a remix or something,
Yeah.
or 2 remixes, I believe, or something from Pylon tracks, or maybe a leftover Pylon track or something. But there's 2 OG songs. They're doing a tour here coming up in March and early April, I believe, in the UK. But it looks like it's 15 dates or so, somewhere in that range. That is, if Jazz decides to show up. But I am, I don't know where I'm going to be. The way things are going lately for me with my health has not been good. It's been a very bad 2 weeks for me, but a lot of my big tests are upcoming in next week and, well, this Thursday and then at the end of the month. And, if I'm still here, I'm going to make every effort to get out to see a show, because I got to say, I got a lot of favorite bands, and depending on when you hit me, you may get, Oh, but I thought you said that's your favorite. Oh yeah, but that's this month, not But I mean, I got a lot of
I get it.
favorite bands. But I will say that Killing Joke is a band that blows my fucking mind live, dude. They just blow my mind. They are so good, so tight, so with you. You're just with them, man. You're locked into just you got to go see them, dude. Got to go see them. I mean, it's just that Paradise Lost. That's right, Eli. Thank you. Yeah, that's the movie or the documentary on the Memphis West Memphis 3. Yeah, Nick, you got to get out there and get to see him because you're gonna be like, fuck, dude, why did it take me this long? Why did not? And maybe it was just a matter of timing.
I never get like I want to say my brother-in-law, because my brother-in-law is a huge fan of them too, and like there were times where we would spy, like, oh shit, they're playing. The fuck, we don't have time to like get time off and shit like that. And at that point, I think we were both working at the same place, and that was just tough. Right. When it came down to a show. But the last time I saw them touring was they were opening for Tool. It was like, fuck, man, I don't want to spend that much money to watch Tool play anything off the new album.
Did they open for them during the Fear Inoculum thing, right?
Yep.
Like in 18? Was it 18 or 19?
19.
19. Yeah. I really thought about going. The only major problem I had with that was trying to get a Tool ticket was fucking retarded during that period of time. And because, Tool, oh my God, Tool's back after 8,000 eons. And I didn't really like that Tool album very much. I thought it was pretty,
yeah.
But Tool live is a force. I mean, they're great live, and I would have gladly gone to see them, but the fucking tickets were ridiculous. And the only thing that was left was like fucking nosebleeds. I'm like, I'm not paying $140 to sit so far away that I can't see anything, even on the TV screens, and to hear, not when I've been in a club and I've been 7 feet from jazz. There's no fucking way I'm paying that kind of money. So that's why I didn't go. It just wasn't, for me, it just wasn't, it wasn't worth the cost of going to see them. And I've seen Tool 3 or 4 times, so it wasn't like, I wasn't going to survive without seeing them again. But, I'm hoping and praying they do some club shows, because the reality is it's sad. They should be headlining an arena like that. I truly think they should be. I'm glad they're not. I hate to admit that. I'm kind of glad they're not, because every time I've seen them, I've been at most 7 or 8 or 10 feet away from the stage. And I got to meet Jazz. I never would have gotten to meet Jazz at the Wells Fargo Center opening for Tool, or if he was a headliner there. I never got to meet him, but I got to meet him at the Soundstage. You've been at the Soundstage. You know what that's like, walking in there. That's where they were playing. Now, they were full. That show was pretty packed. I'd say there was at least 800 people. But to me, that should have been a sold-out show for this band. Easy. Yeah. And they should have been playing a place 3 times that size. So again, I love the fact that they're not huge, but they should be.
I mean, it's kind of like, just popularity. That it's awarded for accessibility, not creativity. And Killing Joke wants to be creative, and whether they're accessible or not, that's kind of a secondary thing. Like, no, we want to play the music we feel, and I applaud them for it, because for most of their discography, it's fucking awesome. Like, they have a unique sound. Whatever sound they choose, it's generally 100% them. They're not really jumping on a lot of trends or anything like that. They play what they feel.
I agree. I think, again, just to wrap up here, and thank you so much for joining me on this.
Oh, not a problem.
Nick, I get into these deep, and I knew that you were the one guy that I was going to do this with, because you and I were going to geek the fuck out on these albums, because we love this band so much. And I think, if you're coming into this band and you've never heard of them before, my starting points would be Absolute Dissent, or 2012, or Pandemonium, or Nighttime. And, there are some periods to be a little leery of. I'm not going to lie. The first 4 albums, the first one is great, but is it like their latter period stuff for me? No, it's not. It's down the list. It's 7 or 8 for me as far as favorites. But the second, third, and fourth album, I'm glad I didn't find out about them early on, because I just would not have stuck with them with those albums. And that's not to say that there isn't something redeeming about each, although I find it hard to find them. Other people may. Mariano loves Fire Dances, and I get. And again, if you came in then, maybe that makes sense. But
Yeah.
although Mariano's really young, so I don't think he came in on 83 on that album. He's really young comparatively speaking, is what I'm saying. But for me, those would be the albums I suggest. I think you're about in the same wheelhouse, aren't you? Pretty much.
I mean, it depends on the fan. Like, all right, I said with the self-title from 2003, if you're more of a metal fan and you want to hear them kind of at their heaviest, I would say that album or Pylon. And then kind of work your way towards some of the, less metal stuff. Because, I mean, if you're just a giant fan of 80s music, fucking Nighttime. Nighttime is brilliant. It's just essential listening in terms of 80s music, I think. And even Brighter Thousand Suns, like if you're more of a fan of like Depeche Mode and stuff, that might be your starting place. But Absolute Dissent is one I'd say if you just want to hear a wild variety of cool stuff, it's that album. The transitions from song to song can be really jarring, but it's jarring in a fun way because you really just don't know what to expect. Like going from like those first two tracks, like the mood shifts so dramatically. And get ready for a wild ride as it continues to go on. So, yeah, it just depends on the person you're recommending it to.
That's true. That's a good point. I mean, but again, it kind of goes back to how we started this thing, where we were talking about this band is super hard to pigeonhole. They're super hard to genreify, so to speak, if you want to, because they encompass so many different elements of different genres, and they do them all well, but they make them Killing Joke. And that's the thing. It's like, maybe there should just be a Killing Joke genre that is just them. That won't work, but you know what I'm saying? I mean, it's just one of those things where I've had so many people go, yeah, dude, I heard you talking about them. What do they like? It's like, shit. Okay. Well, how, it's kind of like when I first got into Porcupine Tree, I was having a tough time trying to explain them, but not as hard as Killing Joke. Porcupine Tree, I could always go, well, they're proggy, they got a Tool edge for heaviness, but then they got a Jethro Tull British wispiness, and then they got a little bit of Radiohead in them. So I could always kind of go, there's 3 or 4 bands I can point to. With Killing Joke, I can't really point to a lot of bands. I gotta say, well, these bands sound like them.
Yeah.
And you see what I mean? It's almost the reverse.
Even when it comes down, it's well, it says they're post-punk. It's like, yeah, but it's not the post-punk you really think of. And it's like, well, this one says it's industrial metal. It's like, I mean, kind of, but not really. Like the bands they influence definitely are more industrial metal, but you listen to, there's definitely similarities. Again, it kind of just depends on where you pick up on them and what you already like and what you're going to latch onto. And it kind of makes the discography fun to go through because, and same thing with like new releases, you don't necessarily know what you're going to get, but most of the time it's going to be pretty fucking awesome and pretty fucking inventive.
I mean, they've been a little bit more consistent the last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 albums or so in terms of they're mining similar territory, but yet not entirely, because you get onto an album like Absolute Dissent and you've got a synth pop song and you've got a fucking a dub song on there, a reggae dub song that's kind of like, but it's not like don't worry, be happy, man. It's not that kind of fucking reggae. It's
don't worry, be miserable.
Yeah. Don't worry, we'll bomb your house. But anyway.
What was that last part?
We'll bomb your house. and you're gonna die of AIDS. But it's okay. Don't worry. It's okay.
Like, as long as he doesn't say my name in the song. Yes, Nick Anderson. What?
Yeah, that would be trippy. But yeah, man, it's been fun revisiting all this stuff because this is, again, some of these albums I hadn't listened to in a while. Several, like the more recent ones, I've pulled out more regularly, and I always pull out. Remember driving up through the Pennsylvania mountains, going to a seminar for work. I want to say 20 14 maybe, and I threw in Brighter, and I just had it cranked in the car, and I'm like, man, life just doesn't get any better than this, man. I'm just driving, and I'm like, cup of coffee, and I'm just cranking, and I'm like, man, I love this shit. And it's like, and it's an album that was at that time 30 years old.
Yeah. Same. I mean, honestly, even with the recent stuff, like Pylon, one of my favorite night drive songs is New Cold War. Just the rhythm to it, that atmosphere, that simple. It's, I don't know, like there's something soothing about it, even though it's a dark, bleak as fuck song.
Well, anyways, thanks to everybody that joined us. Thanks, Nick, for letting me ramble a lot about one of my favorite bands. I hope you enjoyed getting on here and discussing them as well. And we got some other ones we're going to do in the future here, I hope.
Oh, yeah, definitely, man. I'm down for
I got some time left. Ride. Yeah, and so anyway, I don't know if the other guys are doing a stream. Are we doing an after stream? What's that? Maybe we will. Let me hang on. Let me. You know what we didn't do? We didn't touch on any comments. Let's take a quick look. I think there's a lot of private combos going on here.
Yeah.
James and Baseman have.
Oh, Mighty Wendy. They're talking about Christopher Guest movies.
Yeah. Okay, Christopher Guest. Okay. Phone is dying. Sorry, Pete. What do we got here? Great album. I guess you were talking about Mariano. Maybe you were talking about 2012 or Absolute Dissent. Oh no, you were talking about Pylon. Okay. I am Rick. He just can't not do it, man. It's like he's like constitutionally incapable of not making puns.
Jazz did it.
Merchandise ambitions. We're talking about a guy with couch shirts. Yeah, that's true.
Valid.
Anyway, guys, I'm sorry I didn't really do a lot with comments tonight because I had a lot to say and I didn't want to keep Nick here until fucking 4 a.m. on this. If anybody wants to do a live stream afterwards, I mean, I could host one. I could check and see who's around. What time is it, Nick?
It is 12:46 here.
Oh shit. Well, I'll check and see if anybody's up. I know Rick's probably still up, and check to see if Chuck's around. Maybe we'll do a short one. I don't know if you're down for that.
Yeah. Hit me with a link. Let me know what's going on.
All right. Anyways, thanks to everybody for joining us for you can see my fucked up finger there. For this edition, number 9, I believe it is. Number nine. I'm hoping to do a number 10 in about a week or two with a special guest, but I haven't heard from him again, so I don't know if he's just got busy and forgot. But I'm hoping to do King's X. And I don't want to announce for sure who's going to be joining me, although I might have already said something once. If I can get that to happen either next Saturday or the Saturday after, I'd like to do that. There's, like I said, we're going to do these shallow dives, or I'm going to do these shallow dives. And I got an ass load of stuff sitting out to start to review and dig through for other bigger catalog bands for the deep dives, and trying to do the best I can. I got a lot of heavy stuff facing me in the next 2 weeks, so with medical stuff, but we'll see where we're at. And Nick, again, thanks a million, dude. Love hanging out with you. Always great. I'm just hoping I'm here in May so I can meet up with you guys down at Maryland Death Fest. At least do one day. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get through multiple days. That's going to be tough.
You got my number. Text me, call me, let me know, man. We'll find a place to meet up.
All right, brother. So, anyways, all you guys out there, stay safe, stay cool, and listen to Killing Joke. If you didn't know them before, go get into them, man. This guy over here and me, we're too fucking brilliant to not be right about this. So, go listen to them.
Yeah. Brilliant. That's what my mom says.
All right, Nick, I'll let you know if something's going on there, man.
All right, man. Later.
Peace out.
Peace.